Hey everyone, welcome to Dialog Choices Podcast. Bird's here, and also the people that are always here. Hello.
Wow. Okay,
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How do you do? I am fresh.
I'm good.
I am fresh returned from a trip for Mother's Day, and boy, hanging out with family really exposes me to small California.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, "Boy, are my arms tired."
That's
No.
where I thought he was going to.
I'm not going
glad
out.
that.
I am not. I'm not enough of a brave idiot to get on a plane this year.
You say, "Oh, I was going
On
to
a
say,
plane? Wait, why would the plane tire your arms out?
Well,
Ah.
that's the
What?
that's the classic
joke.
American pun, Mr. Portugal. Is that he's like, I just got back from a flight to Hawaii, and boy are my arms tired because I was the one flying with my hands flapping.
You're not a bird. Bird is a bird.
It's a bird joke. Did you catch that?
I didn't.
But no, I have.
The podcasts usually start off this strong because, damn.
Yeah, this is some hot fire right here. This
Yeah.
is
No, now we want to know
high
why small
energy,
California is small.
high octane.
small California is
fuck.
racist."
Yeah, no, it's
Like very, very, like blatantly racist.
oh yeah. There's currently a very concentrated attempt to recall the Democratic governor, and the only way that have that kind of thing even be possible is for there to be a decent Republican presence and so on, despite the reputation of said state. And I don't know, fucking, I'm not here to defend Democrats because they're just exhausting. But it's one of the things that happens where like you just know that like the reasons why they want to do it aren't the reasons you'd want to do it.
Yeah.
But no, we went to some because I was visiting with family a few weeks ago and went to some sausage shop, and they were like, frowny face, masks required inside thanks to a new decree from King Newsom, and like it's all like this like idea of like just being very mad at him specifically, seemingly for the pandemic, and it's like I'm so confused because it's just like do you want to die? But obviously there's the undercurrent of like there's like the weird like multiple layer game of like the COVID is a hoax, but if it isn't, then the Chinese are responsible for it, or the Democrats are,
Or both.
or Biden somehow, or Bill Gates, Hillary something, and somehow I'm like simultaneously it's their fault, but also it's not real. So like masks are stupid, but also I'm gonna blame them for it. And it's such a bizarre 5D chess game. It's just a lot to take in. But yeah, if you go to these if you drive through like the back roads of California and come to the various small towns that are in the mountains and so on, you get a lot of towns where there's like one main road and all the shops are on that one main road, and you pretty much blow past the whole town in like a couple minutes of driving. And then if you take a right turn somewhere, then you find like the extended like suburban area that everyone actually lives in and so on. But like you just blow through these towns really quickly, and if you stop at one, they all have new custom signs that are always about like being rebellious against the current pandemic measures or complaining about Newsom or something. It's just a lot. I was driving down the road of one of them, and I just saw like one of those like those stand up like horses or whatever it's called, like the sign that folds out like a V that they have in front of like food places and restaurants and bars and so on. And it's like in red text, it said an anti-COVID bar, and I was like, yes, that's good. I'm also anti-COVID, but I get the feeling that's not what he meant, because that's a weird declaration to make. And I'm like, oh, I bet that bar is like nobody. They're like rebelling against safety.
It's actually pro-COVID.
Yeah, it's technically a pro-COVID bar.
Oh my god.
It's refusing to raise to the bar of being safe against COVID. And yeah, we went. I got peer pressured because it's just like an awkward like situation. going into this restaurant, and it's just like everyone's going, and you're like, are you going to be the one asshole in the situation? And it's like it's easy to be brave about the idea, but you're just surrounded by people that don't agree with you on this, and you're just like, it's just a weird situation. We ended up eating lunch at this place that this is a picture I shared on Twitter, which I cropped out the business name and so on because I just don't want to deal with that kind of drama exactly. But it said, let's see, I just sent it to Bird so I can check there. It said, no masks allowed for everyone's health and safety. And then in quotes it says, we will not submit to tyranny. And I'm like, I'm so confused by the fucking world
you cannot
these
have
people
masks.
are. I'm so
We are
confused by
not
the world
tyrannical.
people are in. Like, one, no masks allowed for the sake of everyone's health and safety. Is like, are you implying the masks are anti-safety somehow? Is that the level of discourse we're on now? But
It
also,
is
we
the
will
level.
not submit to
Yeah.
tyranny. You're the one saying I can't wear a mask.
Yeah.
You're not saying like masks not required. You're saying no masks allowed. And it's like, what if I want to wear a mask? It's like, no, you can't wear that because we're anti-tyranny. So we're going to force you not to wear a mask. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, I couldn't get my shots.
And that's like the most libertarian thing too, isn't it?
Oh, it's the
like,
worst.
to be like, oh yeah. And obviously I'm being
To
super
be-
sarcastic,
to
but it's
be
just
like
like a lot of people will describe
anti-government
themselves-
declaration in a way that's like not actually freedom oriented.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I'm a libertarian," and it's like, but also I'm going to tell you what to do.
All I know is I was
And
very,
have the government
I was
try to enforce
deeply,
it.
I was deeply frustrated, and all I can think about is how I'm getting my second shot in a week, and it can't happen fast enough because I can't deal with this anymore. This fucking like being fucking suicidally stupid, but like smug about it. It's like we if it wasn't for vaccines, we would just wipe ourselves out because we would never
Don't discount the
actually
possibility of that
advance
happening,
as smart people. We would never. We're so entrenched in this fucking back and forth culture war that where everything becomes politicized, even like the universal threat against our race and species. That like, it was very optimistic of all of those. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I'm about to call Watchmen optimistic because in Watchmen
Yeah.
there's a massive outside threat that is manufactured cynically by Ozymandias and by Manhattan. It's always Ozymandias is manufactured as an existential threat to trick humanity into uniting, and that was very optimistic of the deeply cynical writer of Watchmen, because turns out when you have an existential threat, if everyone just gets worse. It's the
I like all the hot takes that people have about like, I'm never going to give people shit about give horror movie writers shit about how suicidally stupid protagonists in those movies are.
it's just accurate apparently.
hmm
Yep.
Yeah. No one ever talks about the zombie apocalypse when people like fight for argue for their right to get bitten. Deeply
I
unrealistic.
mean, there's this like earlier in the pandemic, I think people talked a little bit more about parallels to the current anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers sort of movement regarding the COVID. Because like even in the beginning of the 20th century, in the plagues that happened and all that, they basically were the same people. There is a very different level of how much that is spread these days because of monetary interests from people from certain channels on TV and from groups on Facebook and everywhere. They just benefit from people falling to that conspiracy theory, getting clued into this world. Because they also, it's like it's not the same thing as a cult in the immediate sense of the word, but the aspect of a cult or an aspect of cult mentality that is really powerful is the fact that people get isolated from their families and from their loved ones, and they create new groups, and so it's very difficult for them to, one, recognize that they're in a cult, and two, to get out because they have isolated themselves. But the conspiracy theory mentality of the last 10, maybe 15 years that the internet has provided to us plays very much into that sort of isolationism. Like it's really difficult for I imagine it's really difficult for people who aren't even aware that they should be aware, but people are not aware that Facebook and even Google itself, even the search engine tracks your search results, and Facebook does it and YouTube does it. It just creates a feedback cycle where your views are reinforced time and again, because that's what gives them money. That's what makes you click and like literally click on the website. And so if people aren't aware of that, their worldview just changes completely. And, because that's the info that they have, but they get isolated. So it's difficult for them to not think that. And then it's the ridiculous things like in Florida. I saw a tweet last week, I think, where a high school in Florida says that if the teachers get the vaccine, they can't teach there anymore. And it's completely inane stuff as well. Like the press release or whatever it was about the transference of genetic material. Due to the transfer of genetic material, teachers who have had the vaccine may not teach this year or whatever. It's like, do you even know what genetic material is? Are you implying that they are bleeding on each other or worse? It's like,
ew.
it's like, seriously, if you're transferring your genetic material to other people, that's not something you should do in public. That's all I'm saying. It's just because the sort of confusion and doublespeak is just outrageous. It's like blatantly obvious that people are just completely mad.
One thing that's super frustrating is having the same conversation over and over about, like, with the same people about this sort of stuff too, where it's like, okay, you get an mRNA vaccine, which means like, oh, that DNA is floating around in you. And then you have a conversation for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes with somebody where you're like, well, that's not really the way that it works. It's just giving you basically the proteins to like make your body trick itself into being there. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, yeah, but, and then they're mad about the exact same thing that they were the first conversation. And it's like, wait, we already talked about this. There's no what?
Yep. I have that problem with my dad specifically. It's just every time I argue with him, I know it's pointless because
the information just bounces right off.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't really. At this point, I assume that I will literally never change anyone's mind about anything ever, because I don't think I ever have. So I'm just
not only will you not change anyone's mind on an ideological level, you never change their mind about the facts of one thing
Basic
that
facts.
happened once, like just in a vacuum, just one thing. Like I always think back to like the fucking like the stigma against like welfare and other sorts of systems and so on, and like I had a conversation that wasn't even trying to go like correct that entire line of thinking. It was just that they were being mad about the Obama phones and saying that Reagan would never stand for that. And so I was like, okay, I've literally never heard of an Obama phone before, so let's Google what that means. And it's like, oh, it's a program that was started by Reagan. Like, that could not be the most intensely ironic thing ever. It was created by Reagan, and it was expanded to cell phones by George W. Bush, 2 Republican presidents. Obama just still had it around. Like, Clinton and Obama just kept it. But it was introduced by a Republican president and expanded by another Republican president. And then when confronted with this information, they barely reacted, and then they proceeded to complain about it a month later, as if nothing had happened. And I'm like, what? But like, not only are you wrong, you're wrong in like an incredibly embarrassing, ironic way. And that even that shame didn't stick with you. Like, it just, any contrary information bounces right off in these situations, and the fucking loop just continues. And Facebook is really bad about it because it's like misinformation just spreads with there's no fact checking, there's no context, there's not even really the idea that it has to be a real website like that does any kind of news, even Fox News levels of news. Like, it's like incredibly fragmentary non-sources, and nobody actually does anything besides read the headline anyway. So it's just like you just post pictures of stuff, which is how like the those really racist statistics were getting around for a while that were just infographics that were based on nothing most of the time, and just like somebody just did Microsoft Paint bullshit. And like, was it Andrew and I both had the same experience where we both encountered relatives that had some kind of conspiracy about like Gavin Newsom's winery or something.
Yeah.
And both of us couldn't even Google what the fuck they were talking about, but we both separately encountered people that were talking about this. And the only thing I can think is that it must be some kind of fucking weird, insular, like, likable Facebook group page somewhere that's just saying shit. It's like when, was it Brazil during the election was like the primary way of people getting information was like WhatsApp, which is incredibly impossible to control or follow or track or like actually correct any of it. So like incredibly false nonsense was the most popular information everywhere, and it swayed the entire election and so on. It's like
it's actually
media
worse
was
in
a
case of
mistake.
Brazil. It's actually worse in case of Brazil because that started before the election, while Lula was still free. And then when he was sent to prison, the misinformation campaigns had already been underway for a while. And so the reaction of the public to him sending to prison, and if to those listening, Lula was one of the candidates, the front runner. And when he was sent to prison, it definitely shaped the perception and the reaction of the public to that. Not only then, of course, it continued the misinformation, but it's just because it's untrackable and because there's so much information out there to what people like. Like the other day, I saw an article about, I think it was, I don't know who it was, but it was like an Instagram ad that was basically a paragraph saying that you're saying stuff that Instagram allows you to categorize. So basically, when you publish an ad, you can target certain groups, like for example, single dads or people who ride a bicycle or any like there's literally a very granular level of detail, and then it's all separated by categories and stuff like gender and looking for a partner or whatever, all the different things. And so what they did is they made a paragraph on Instagram. It was basically an ad that said, you are this type of person that likes this type of thing, looking for this type of thing, that lives in this area or whatever. And so basically,
sounds like
felt
one
very
of those
inclusive.
hyper-specific graphic tees.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're browsing Instagram, and all of a sudden Instagram is telling you. All of a sudden, Instagram is telling you stuff that you never told, or you're not aware that you said it to Instagram, but they have that info because of the way tracking
that has really
works.
big J.K. Rowling reveals that you, the reader, were gay all along energy. It's like just find out what the algorithm has identified you as, and you're like, my God.
Actually, that's kind of funny because I have a very weird way of allowing certain ad engines to track me, and so sometimes on Twitter thinks that I'm a pregnant mother, and other times it thinks I'm a book writer, and I'm not. It's not quite there yet, but we'll see how it goes in the future.
I wonder what Twitter thinks I am.
Right? That's the thing as well. Like,
find out what Twitter thinks you are.
They basically banned that ad. Like I think it was like a few hours after it was found out because for some reason they didn't like it. And the reason why they didn't like it is because it exposes what they do with the info that they have. Because if you tell the average person, oh, Facebook knows what you like and what you eat and what you watch, and the average person goes,
these people are
I don't
all paranoid the vaccine's going to give that information to Bill Gates.
That's true as well.
They know, everyone already knows.
But I think the point is when you bring it to the people's attention that it's not just Facebook knowing what you have, it's what they tell that to all their clients, to everybody that runs an ad on Facebook. They know your data, and they don't know it personally to you, but what they do know is that whenever they talk to you directly through an ad, they know who you are, and they know what you like and all that sort of stuff. And so that can be leveraged to such extreme ends in marketing and obviously in political.
I think like that sort of, it's weird because I feel like that level of information on its own is not insidious to be sold or commodified, like whatever, commodified. Yeah, like that's fine. The problem I have is not giving people the option to opt out. That's the part that I don't like. Like, I don't care if someone Facebook's going around now, and if you don't agree to their terms and conditions, they're just going to like kick you off Facebook. is basically how they are approaching it now.
So
Like
it
if you
works,
do
yeah.
not allow, yeah, like if you don't allow them to steal your information, then and sell it, then you can't be on their platform, which is like good. That's good. That's how it should have been in the beginning. It should have been that transparent. Or hey, we're selling your shit. If you don't like that, get the fuck out of here. But like the idea that it's like hidden or mystified, where you go to a website and you're like, oh, cool, I want to read a recipe. And it's like, psych, I sold like 15 companies your data. It's like, what? Why? Why did you, why the fuck did you need to do that? I just want to look up how to make a fucking pie. What's wrong with you? But like, that's the part I don't like. But the information being like, if you're willing to give that information to somebody, then fine. I don't care if there's tools to track every minute detail of your life. All that I care about is that the person that's being tracked is aware that that's happening to them. Like,
But
that's the part that matters.
I think you're right
This
in
is
saying.
a long list of interests.
I think you're right in saying that consent is very important. Absolutely, it is. But on the other hand, it is also important to note that what we're discussing here isn't our personal data. It's not mine. It's not yours, Andrew. It's not our personal data that's the issue. It's everybody else's personal data that they have.
Dogs is listed
what happens
twice.
is
Yeah, you're talking about like Facebook will take the contact information from somebody, one of your friends who has your phone number.
But the thing is, they will accept it, even with the consent.
I'm going to be honest. You have shitty friends. Like if you have friends that use Facebook, maybe you need better friends. Like you shouldn't be with those people.
I misunderstood.
I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with Facebook taking the information from your contacts list. That's completely okay.
I didn't mean that. I meant people in general in the world. Because the problem isn't that they control us personally, is that they have a level of control that is so big. And I say control here, I don't mean like direct control. I mean like access to your info. They have a demographic level of influence and a demographic level of knowledge of people. Even if it's just 20% of the world's population, which is, I think, Facebook's demographic. And even if it is 20% of that, it's still enough to cause such a large change in society, as we have seen, that the consent doesn't really matter at the end of the day, especially when the consent is manufactured and it's just given, and people are convinced that it's in their best interest to give that data off. But it never is a problem personally. I feel that it is a problem just societally. You know what I mean? Like it's okay personally, it's okay for Facebook to have my data. But if I could choose whether Facebook has anybody's data, I would choose for Facebook not to have anybody's data. Do you know what I mean?
I guess
it's just a broader issue.
I just still don't see what the problem is of like Facebook. I don't care. Like
they literally control.
It is really hard
elections.
to explain without being okay. And again, those are systemic issues that you need to fix. That's not like Facebook isn't doing anything that it's not being allowed to do. Like that's the problem I have, is that like, okay, again, Facebook is allowed to do whatever the hell they want, but it's been like 20 years. Somebody get a fucking lasso and put it over the fucking bull's neck. Like what the hell is going on? Tie the damn thing to a pole, or just admit you don't give a shit. Like that's the thing, is like I'm tired of having to rely on terms and conditions or like the free market to fix itself. Like, Facebook is going to do the right thing eventually. And it's like, when?
Is it?
Like when are they going to do it? Because like I've been alive since it started, and it has never once even sniffed the direction of doing the good thing. Like, so when is this happening? And like, at the end of the day, it's never going to happen. So you need to make rules that protect people's privacy and give them all the tools available to protect themselves, regardless of how much it affects the economy or whatever. Like that's the whole thing. Is like some countries just don't let Facebook in. Okay,
yeah, that's right. That's you're right.
That solves it. Like North Korea doesn't.
Yeah.
North Korea doesn't have any of these issues. They have zero of these fucking issues because they just said no.
Wasn't Facebook that said to Australia that if they wanted to advance with some privacy laws that they wanted put there, they would just leave the country? Was it Facebook?
Yeah, they were just they were just like, we would just leave. And
when I saw that headline, I'm like, threaten me with a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Leave
Like,
the
it's-
world.
You know, like China does this all the like. This is literally the whole thing that China does. It's just specifically say yes or no to websites existing on their. Their
China
internet.
has the
And-
control is all in the government though. It's basically the same thing
well,
except
yeah,
it's to people in the government.
But I'm
rather
saying,
than-
so there is ways to avoid this. We just aren't doing them. Like it's it's not going to come down to the company. The company will never do the right thing. You have to use your. That's the point of a government, is that it helps protect its citizens from harm by either everything, by domestic and foreign issues. Like, you're supposed to rely on this centralized form of government to run a smooth society. And if you can't, if you every time you log onto the internet, someone's throwing dildo pictures in your face because one time you accidentally Googled dildos, like maybe that's maybe that's the thing. I'm just saying.
I just fell on my keyboard exactly in the shape of the letters DILDO.
I mean, you know,
In that order, including the repeating letter.
If politicians can accidentally like porn tweets, I think you can accidentally type dick into
I mean, they
a
did more.
engine,
I think they did worse than like in some cases. If you're talking, was it Ted Cruz? Shared incest porn on 9/11.
Oh yeah, he shared.
I'm just saying. I'm not. Anyways, it could be an accident. But now your just entire life is surrounded by these pictures. Like, that sounds like something you should probably go to a town hall of your local fucking congressman and go, hey, could you like not? I would really like it if you could not like let that happen. And they would presumably do the thing you need to do.
They don't go to
I don't
town
know.
halls though.
Well, because most people don't even know what town hall exists.
No, I mean the politicians don't go to town halls. Ted Cruz doesn't anyway.
Elect the ones that do. You can
Yes.
see them because they go to the town halls, and if they're not there, they're probably not people you should elect. Like, I don't know. There's at some level, at some point, I have to. My mind has to accept that there is some level of responsibility on the person to take care of a problem. Like, I can't. Sometimes you can't just shrug and go, I don't get it. How come, why isn't it just being taken care of? And it's like, are you helping having it taken care of? Like, it doesn't just happen. Like, not everyone thinks of the world the same way. You have to go up to, like, I bet you Joe Biden doesn't know 90% of the problems in the world because he's a fucking privileged old man sitting in a goddamn rich mansion on some hill somewhere. He probably doesn't know half of the shit that happens in this world.
Listen, Jack.
It's a banana, Andrew. How much could it cost? $10?
So you have to take a banana and throw it at somebody with a receipt attached and go, no, you fucking dumbass. That's how much a banana costs.
I just remembered she's dead. No.
But the banana?
The Arrested Development and Archer actress. That was just fantastic. I'm currently removing a lot of reactionaries, JRPGs, and sports teams from my quote-unquote interests on Twitter. The funny thought about the sports teams is I can't tell you which ones are sports teams and which ones are esports teams because I don't recognize any of their names.
Wait, you have sports on your interests?
Yeah, I'm going through my interests, and it's a very, very, very long list because I've never curated it before. And my favorite part is how it'll be like dogs, and then the next line will be dogs again. Like, certain topics just repeat sometimes. Like, it says Walking Dead 4 times and dogs twice.
Don't you dare delete any one of those, by the way.
Which one's the vital one?
No, both of them.
Which
are
one's the load-bearing dogs tag? But on the topic of the new stuff, like what really sucks is that there's this cult fanaticism thing where they know that they're lying and spreading bullshit. So what they do specifically in order to condition their audience to not take in any outside information and only listen to them is that they do the cult thing where they make everybody outside of their specific group, they half of their rhetoric, seriously, half of the words that come out of their mouth are just disparaging other sources of information as being illegitimate over and over again. It's the fake news loop just endlessly about the mainstream media and so on. So you get so conditioned to be to never trust anyone besides the person that's actively lying to you. And so you have these frustrating people where you deal with people that listen to Tucker Carlson, but like you mentioned, like, you did that 2 hour drive. Yeah, what did you do the whole time? Oh yeah, I was listening to NPR. It's like, oh, I can't listen to them. They're so slanted. I'm like, what? The most boring news reporters on the planet? NPR? Too slant? All right.
I also like the take where people are like, why isn't the mainstream media talking about this? And it's an article on like NPR or something. Like,
yeah.
It's like, most people usually, I feel like don't even know like what NPR is.
It's like it's a lot to take in.
For those not aware, it's the National
as a
Public
rule of
Radio.
thumb, I assume that most people who are angry about something probably don't really know what they're even angry about.
No,
I'm always.
That's why
it is a lot.
Always aware of what I'm angry about.
That's why I think that whenever
you research your anger, you're like, I want to be informed about why I hate this thing.
It makes me hate it more. Isn't that like the goal? Like if you hate something, you should hate it more than you possibly can ever hate it. So you got to research.
Exactly.
I think it's important, like when dealing with random people, and even when I say random people, I actually also mean family people that we don't deal with on a daily basis. Like it's very easy, at least for me, I think it's very easy to be tempted to just jump to the most divisive issues that aren't maybe not even like apropos of anything. It's just the issues that you know that are just going to rile them up, just to, you know, trigger them in a way, to use the verbiage that a lot of them use. But if you think of the opposite of that, if you think of the opposite of just going, oh yeah, well, trans Black Lives Matter, you motherfucker, instead of just going there and just ending the conversation immediately, you can talk about the issues directly in sort of like, it's a little bit of a subterfuge technique in a way, but I feel that a lot of people who are radicalized still are capable. Like there's a certain level of when I say radicalized, I do mean in regards to conspiracy theories, not to say that radicalization is a bad thing inherently, but people who are already in that groupthink where they will shun anybody that doesn't fit their mold. They are still exercising part of their brain that allows them to think of the issues if you bring them up in a certain way. So sometimes there's inroads, I feel. It's just very difficult a lot of the time because either you don't know the person, or maybe the subject is just dumb, like masks, and they think that masks are bad for your health. I mean, there's very little there.
There are times where I wish that were true, but there are often times I find that it is not the case. People sometimes just are beyond saving levels of like insane. Some people just believe a world so tightly that doesn't exist that they just can't break that mold out, or it hurts. Like those are, I mean, that is what a cult is. That's the whole idea. Yeah. And that's why you continually see people refer to a lot of this stuff as cultish, is because there's like a weird inability to grasp reality because it has fractured so much, or has fractured their stability so much. Like they needed a world that's so specific to exist, and the fact that it doesn't is just so much that the only thing they can do is just deny reality, or else they can't live in the world that they live in, which is, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. There's no limit. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't just like talk people down from that level of insanity. You have to just look at them in the eyes and go, well, I'm glad that every human has a time limit, I guess. Like, and just wait it out.
I think giving up on people, I don't know. Nobody should be expected to keep caring if somebody is just either abusive or just completely irrational and doesn't like, because the interpersonal relationships are very complicated. I'm not talking about specific people or specific cases in anybody's life. It's not on anybody's shoulder to deconvert anybody. And if a person can't, it's fine. But not giving up on somebody when they're in that mode sometimes can yield good results. I see that sort of stories every once in a while in interviews and stuff like that, where people just either like in real heavy stuff like neo-Nazi groups or whatever. There's I never read the book, but there's the author of the book. I watched a bunch of interviews with the guy. I don't remember his name. It's an Italian name. and he was like the leader of the biggest neo-Nazi group in the US for a few years. And his book is Life After Hate, and he has a bunch of interviews, which are the things that I watched, and it just goes on and on about specifically the, it's very easy to give up, for people to just give up on you, but those acts of not giving up on you are the anchor points, because when you find yourself in a position where you doubt yourself, or when you, as a person inside of a cult, I should say, find yourself in a place where you...
There's like that black guy that gives TED Talks about how he would attend KKK rallies, and he de-radicalized like the leader of that rally group out of the organization.
I've seen that as well. Yeah,
Daryl Davis. Yeah.
At some point, I just don't feel like that's my responsibility.
It's
I
not.
don't know.
Yeah, it's
I would
rough.
believe in that a lot more
many
if
cases,
it ever worked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The thing is, in my experience, like when I say I literally have no expectation that I will ever materially impact somebody's beliefs or behaviors or ideology or anything, like I have a 0% success rate on it.
Oh yeah, it's
If
based on like
anything,
dozens or
anytime I
hundreds
talk
of
to-
examples.
Yeah, anything is, if I try to talk to somebody and my beliefs differ, like the end result is usually they're very angry with me.
Yeah.
Like
You just
even
you
if somebody
destroy
brings up the topic, be
relationships,
like,
or
hey, what?
depending on what kind of person you are, even maybe put yourself in danger.
Yeah, like usually
Yeah.
the experience is like, hey, what do you think about it? Is like where something starts, and where something ends is incredible, intense, angry hatred.
Yep.
It's kind of impressive. Like I don't really know where it comes from, but like
Like
some people
I spent my
legitimately
weekend
want...
in a neighborhood where every house had like a fucking like blue, like thin blue line American flag,
Yeah,
like
Jesus.
Blue Lives Matter thing, and I'm like, all right, this is a weekend of picking your battles.
It's really weird. Like some people will just turn on a dime. Like some people will say like, wow, I'm super impressed, and like I respect like the things that you do or whatever. And then all of a sudden they'll just think you're like the biggest dumbass. And like I don't know where that can like it's like a
Oh,
switch
yeah.
sometimes. Like some people just they get so immediately angry and
No,
disrespectful
yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
I spent a weekend trip quadding in Pismo with like family, friends, and so on, and there was this one person just kept saying like, oh my goodness, you're such a saint, you have the patience of Job, you have the patience of Job, just kept saying that shit over and over again. Suddenly I was like, all right, let's Google who the fuck Job is, and it's like, oh, it's the guy that gets the guy that gets tortured and everything taken from him and so on. That guy. Which just was like just heaping praise on me and so on. But like a week later on Facebook, there's a fucking infographic, as there always is, that's always like, here's how many people get killed by assault rifles, and here's how many people get killed by medical malpractice. Should we ban doctors? And I'm like, all I did was very carefully point out that like this is not really a reasonable comparison, because one, assault rifles are illegal already, so there's not going to be a lot of deaths by a thing that's literally illegal and gone. And the other two is just like the number of people who just die. Like everyone needs doctors in their life.
Also,
maybe a lot even, and like that's
also
like
that
the entire population of the world at some point is interacting with doctors basically in some capacity. So like there's
And
such
also
a
that
high
infographic
chance of dying in one way or another collectively, and the other one is just like, oh no, but like only 12 people get killed by like the assault rifles that are not allowed and basically don't exist, because as gun nuts are loved to point you out, that's not an assault rifle and that's not an assault rifle, and it's like, so there's some problems with this premise.
but also that infographic in specific, or likely that infographic is
probably
actually
just
not
fake.
correct. Yeah, no, it's based off of. I think there's one infographic going around that is based off of something specific, and it's like it's piling in everything. It's basically every time somebody dies, whereas I don't remember. There's a video by Medicare, Medilife Crisis, I think, specifically about that subject, about that infographic, and where he goes on about why I think it's like 50 million people. It's something a ridiculous number that died off, that supposedly died off of medical malpractice, but it's like super overinflated to be like skewed in the direction.
Oh yeah, it's usually a really questionable count.
Yeah, so if the doctor failed to diagnose you for whatever thing or whatever, it's just like, I don't remember, but I know there's a, go check his channel, MediLife. No, sorry, MediLife.
It's up there with
Crisis.
like the stats that they'll try to say, like, here's how many people died to communism and here and so on. It's like, oh, you want to try to talk about how many people have died to capitalism? You want to try to total that out? It's gonna be some interesting math's gonna come up today.
Although to be fair as well, and look at me defending capitalism. The number of people who interacted with capitalism is also a lot greater than the one.
It's an incredibly iffy thing to even try to calculate.
Yeah,
like
it's just
But it's a lot. I one of my favorite things about leaving Facebook is that I just, considering how many examples just live in my brain forever, I'm just happy to not be adding to that list constantly. Like I just remember somebody fucking like smugly posting a news article about a car that drove into a coffee shop, and like, this is why you'll never catch me in a self-driving car. And I read the entire article, unlike them, and because they must have just had like a brand name or something, and that's it. I read the entire article, not even a single mention of self-driving at all in the entire article. There's no indication that anything about self-driving cars caused this accident. And there's just like somebody who crashed into a car and is like, I don't know what happened, which is what anyone does in that situation, is like, oh my goodness, how'd that happen? Like, what happened is some person got their fucking coffee, got back in their car, then like got distracted on their cell phone or some shit, or got mixed up or confused or who knows what, because people just fuck up at driving cars every day and kill a bunch of people, and they just drove forward instead of backwards, just like the classic sitcom mistake, and they drove into the coffee shop. Thankfully no one was hurt, but it's just like the fucking smugness of sharing that article as like evidence against self-driving cars without it even being an article that mentions self-driving cars in any capacity. And lo and behold, they sure as fuck don't like back down or even like admit to being wrong when you point that out. It's like, it doesn't matter, like, because like the actual details don't matter. It's just it's the constant repeating the ideology. It's virtue signaling. It's, here's the list of things that I'm supposed to be for or against in my group, so I just repeat those things ad nauseum, and that's all that matters. The facts don't matter. Just repeating to everybody my virtues is what matters. It's just I'm so happy signaling to be off of at least one of these platforms.
That's called religion.
At least now all the idiots on Twitter are people I don't know. So
you don't know anybody on Twitter?
It doesn't constantly like recolor what I think of people that I have to encounter with later.
Personally, yeah.
I mean, I don't really know anybody on Twitter. Not really.
Ouch.
Especially since I don't really even follow, especially since I usually don't follow content. I don't usually follow like Let's Players I know, because a lot of them don't really use Twitter so much as like post their, like I don't follow Bird because it just posts videos, although I think his account just is defunct now.
Yeah, I haven't checked my Twitter in years.
Like,
I don't find it to be a rewarding platform to engage with whatsoever.
One of the only people I really historically followed was Andrew. Back when he used to go on 100 tweet rants before Threads existed.
Yeah, and now I just don't do that.
Which was only possible because Twitter used to be chronological, so you'd scroll for a bit and suddenly there'd be like a fucking 100 posts in a row of just Andrew, then one random interruption of a piece of art by someone, and then more Andrew. It's like, he's really going.
Yeah.
Back when Twitter it wasn't algorithmic and was probably better as a result.
I think the feedback loop of Twitter specifically is it doesn't have necessarily to do with the algorithm. The algorithm just multiplies it, really, because the thing is, when we're talking to somebody, imagine I'm talking to you three people, and I'm having like three people paying attention to what I'm saying, and that's the reward I get for talking, for saying the things I get. It's sort of like in our heads it works because we're talking together and it's good. But on Twitter, if nobody likes your stuff, you don't know that you're actually reaching anybody. Well, at least you can know that if you go into the stats, but nobody does that, and especially not when you get to bigger numbers.
And so what happens is that they're so weird, you don't even really trust them. You're like, I don't know, did anyone read it? How's the phone really know?
They were just scrolling past and it registered.
What the fuck is an impression? No one really knows.
Yeah.
Impression is how many people have seen it, whether or not they've
seen it or
not. It doesn't matter. It's a soft
view.
How many people was it exposed to?
Yeah, how many people like have
It's a view like event.
What happens in a normal conversation though is that it doesn't matter what I say, the reward is still there. Like I could be saying that you guys disagree, could be saying something that you guys disagree with, or agree, or makes you think, a question, whatever it is. It's the same sort of social interaction in regards to what I know is going on. On Twitter, if nobody likes what you say, then I don't know that anything is going on. So you're incentivized to say stuff that people will like, specifically by either retweeting or answering.
And they like
or anything.
negative
Answering
things
just,
more than they like positive things.
yeah, or inflammatory, or just So what happens is that there's a feedback
you get a
loop
lot
there.
more likes than you do when you're like, look at these cool monster designs from a comic I read. They like it. I like this.
Ranting and booba.
You
Those
can
are
always see
two
the
things you need.
difference.
Mhm.
Did you say ranting and booba?
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it now? We're calling them boobas.
That's
No, there's like
that's
this
the way-
animator that I saw who they do a lot of really fun stuff. And they basically like alternate animating like horny memes and like here's a picture of like a landscape that I drew. And it's just really, really funny because the engagement is exactly what you would expect. The horny animations and the horny memes is like tippy top, and then like here's a lovely little flower that I painted is like that's cute.
Is
from
it
one
Kiki
person.
Flipnote?
Huh?
Is it Kiki Flipnote?
This is Teleport specifically.
I think they did like an animation joke of that topic like a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I've seen two animations that touch on this, and
It comes up.
I think I've seen both of them. Like the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's wholesome channels on Pornhub or something like that have the same
yeah,
effect.
there is.
Wholesome channels on Pornhub.
I mean, it's
This is my gardening
ta-
channel on Pornhub.
You're
Yeah,
talking
what?
about the
I couldn't get verified on YouTube.
Like, yeah.
I think is that no.
I don't know. I
Says-
really don't know, but it feels like it's the same situation. Just like in a sea of horny people being like,
Oh God, I don't like the idea of a sea of horny people.
Oh yeah, the
It's like it's like TF2 survival mode.
Oh no.
yeah the
On the other side,
Pornhub,
it's just 100 scouts.
you're talking about the
The horny jail
what is
bats.
it?
right.
the porn actor Ryan Creamer. That's who you're talking about.
Who the
Ryan
Ryan
Creamer.
Ryan Creamer.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
porn actor name. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan
Does he
Creamer.
also have racist outbursts?
No, he's a very wholesome porn actor.
That's good.
He has an Instagram.
By wholesome, I mean literally no porn.
Oh.
He
Was it-
like his videos are two smoking hot redheads get lathered up in public featuring Molly Stewart.
That was a
their
Kramer.
title
that
like
was
that.
a Kramer joke. If
Yeah.
anyone in the audience is really confused right now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do the dishes without being asked.
Oh my goodness.
Aw.
Oh, that's the porn.
Yeah, that's the porn.
My God.
I play Overwatch and don't have sex with the characters. I
That's not what. You don't
It's
have
a
sex
mo-
with
it's
the
a
characters in Overwatch to begin with. What does he
Uh,
think Overwatch is?
But if you're on
so confused.
Pornhub, you might.
Oh my God.
Overwatch was
Thinking
one
about
of the
Pornhub
highest
just
searched
introduced a
porn.
new thought. I'm like, oh my God, how many? There's probably porn game Let's Players
Oh,
Oh,
With-
that's probably
with
probably.
commentary, which makes it even weirder.
You mean
they
like
need-
people having sex while playing video games? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean like because there's a lot of games on like itch.io
'Cause it's like-
that you could not play, at least not uncensored. Like there's games where the moment to moment behavior is just pornographic, but then there's like the visual novels that are just peppering you with the sexual imagery, and it's like, oh, they probably just make Pornhub accounts and do
you
Let's
think-
Plays there.
Do you think? No, they can't do Let's Plays. It's all no commentary, unless like you're
I
already
bet there's
good.
commentary.
No, they're okay. So
It
don't
can't- it
ask me
has to
how
be
I
no
know this.
Don't
but
ask me
there
how
are
I know this.
there are. Actually, it's kind of a funny story. I'll totally share how I know this. I just figured that'd be a funny way to start it. There are porn commentators on our sorry, there are like Let's Players on Pornhub. At least there used to be, because so you know the game House Party. Yeah. So one of the characters, like a real person, like won a contest to be in it. One of them was the Game Grumps. The other person I don't remember, but she like also does like X-rated Let's Plays. So she has like a Pornhub account. And I don't even remember what she was Let's Playing because I didn't watch it. I just kind of verified for my own curiosity of like, she has an OnlyFans, and then so like 30 seconds of Googling later, and I was like, well, that was that. I've now seen I've now seen things.
I'm sorry.
30 seconds later, that was that.
I just found the equivalent of the of like the gardening channel that I joked about on Pornhub. Like the idea that there's been completely like no reading the room, no proper registering of the fact that you're on a fucking like porn site. Is that I went on Pornhub and searched Let's Play, and I got a Portal 2 Let's Play.
Oh, I got a Minecraft one.
I'm so confused. I'm like, why would you
just doing
upload
this?
it?
All right.
Is this your niche? I mean, I'm not sitting here linking it like Andrew is, but that's a character for Andrew.
Mine doesn't have none of these things have porn in them. There is no.
Although you will find porn
videos
everywhere on the screen when you click on them, because that's the website.
Oh right, I forgot I have like a ad blocker. Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, not even ads. It's like YouTube. It just wants you to watch
related videos. Yeah.
And guess
no,
what?
The
Raptor Bacon
the
Minecraft
two...
Let's Play Part 1.
Oh yeah, that one doesn't show.
Yeah, dude, he's got a lot of views.
That's his. I guess
Getting
that's like
fucked by a creeper in Minecraft. Part 9 Creeper Pit.
Oh, 92%. He has like Pornhub joke titles for his videos.
Yeah,
I guess that's a niche in that if you're we've all lived that hustle of like trying desperately to get any attention on your content on YouTube, and you're like, just upload it to a website that has less competition, I guess.
Bird was talking about his trip through that situation, and like the way he was putting it, it makes a lot of sense. Actually, the porn Let's Plays, it's just it's what they don't allow on Twitch for now, semi undressed people doing streams. It's basically what it is, and there's a lot of it in other more stream dedicated platforms, as far as I know.
They have face cam.
Yeah, they have to have face cam.
I mean, some probably might. The one I link doesn't. He doesn't show his face.
Oh.
He did a reveal where he just shows his hand, but that's it.
It's because the streams are where the money's at, as we all know.
We live in a strange world.
Your imagination is always better than reality.
No, it isn't. There's some
humans are always disappointing to look at. everyone who does well on these kinds of platforms with their voice, it's always going to be disappointing once you reveal the face, and it's like, yep, I was me this whole time. I've been bamboozled. I think what is it? Quentin Reviews just straight up says like he mentioned in one of his videos that he goes out of his way to not show his face until like 10 minutes into the video most of the time, after he's like kind of already like hooked you in to like watch the video up to that point, because he's like because he doesn't want to just like start with his face, because like he just knows like,
some dude.
Like the other elements of this like sell you on actually watching any of this content. It's it's weird. You just imagine a different person most of the time if you just get a voice.
Yeah, people People tell me all the time, like Effie the other day, that my face doesn't match my voice, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's true. My voice. I grew up thinking that my voice and my face didn't match each other very well, but I think that's more due to the fact that I have a very hard time caring about my appearance, which is just reinforced by the fact that nobody cares either. So I can just go around beard all long and hair all weird, and it's fine. But yeah, I don't think my voice matches my face either. I wish it was a little bit deeper. No, I can't. It's not in my blood, in my genes. It's not in my face mask.
Yeah, it's just what is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the person you is.
It's like I would like to, because then I would have rad tattoos and just dress nicely and have cool shoes. But then
Rad tattoos.
These are
seems
100% things that you can control.
Yeah, I feel like you're definitely reserving. You're holding yourself back here. Like,
no, it's just I can't be bothered. Why? I might as well just stay home.
What? I was saying, like, man, I wish I had a cold beer. It's like, it's not the. You're the one who's in charge of how cold the beer is.
I'm just imagining this like it's like the incel stuff, but instead of talking about millimeters of bone, it's like I'll never have cool shoes. I'm like what? That's not really black pill worthy. Like what the fuck is happening right now?
yeah, I don't.
I'm the incel.
Like I can.
It's just
I get
beyond
the
my
tattoos,
control.
because like
Yeah.
you have to go and like sit down for 2 hours with a stranger in a closed building, but you could just buy shoes online. Like there's nothing stopping you from that. And
There's my.
I don't know.
There's my super ego is stopping.
Super
from doing
ego.
it. Yeah, because there's
it's got
like
a cape.
the id. Is it the id, the ego, and the super ego? I think.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I paid attention to
Yeah.
once in high school.
So my id is like back there being like, hey, get the cool tattoo and some shoes. And then the super ego is right on top of my ego and being like, shut up. Work. Okay.
I hate shoes.
No, nobody cares. Just shut up.
Itchy
That's
and
it.
they get everywhere.
I don't.
I actually don't like shoes. That's a good point. I'm always bare feet. I'm bare feet right now.
I guess that's one obstacle between you and having cool shoes is you hating shoes.
That is true. Yeah.
That's really important groundwork to lay first.
I feel
Yeah.
like
Uh,
I feel like mine's just a chain of bad telephone games where it's like the id and the ego are like, let's go outside, and the super ego's like, let's drink water. It's like, what? What? How the fuck did you fuck this up? It's like, I don't know, but we're drinking water now. It's like, oh, okay.
what was the current event I wanted to bring up? There was a
There are
thing that
current
happened like
events
yesterday.
happening in our world.
Are you talking about? There's like 3 that I think
right.
would be fun to talk about. There's Elon
SNL.
Musk and Dogecoin. Yeah.
Oh
we're
no,
right
it's
there,
SNL.
dude.
Let's not talk about Elon Musk.
No, it's too late.
Okay.
Already brought it up.
How much? How much is it up to right
I
now?
fucking
It's down like 30%, right? Let me look.
No, it's up 8%.
I heard this was happening like a while ago, but
yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I'm going to continue to not watch SNL like I always do. But then SNL was brought forth in front of me because we finished watching Tenet, and then somebody was just turn on SNL, and it's like, oh no.
Forth in front of me.
I saw the Dogecoin conversation where just a really awkward skit was happening, and Elon Musk wouldn't stop jiggling. He was just jiggling in place for like the entire like 5-minute skit. He just wouldn't stop.
Oh wait,
moving.
I saw
He
that.
just kept swaying and jiggling, and I'm like, what is he doing?
I
What is
saw that. I
what
didn't
is
know
this
what I was seeing.
behavior? I don't know what this is. He feels like an alien wearing a human mask, and that was just a lot to take in.
Yes, Keith, he's rich. What do you want?
But no, I saw the horrifying Mario Kart courtroom trial skit, and I felt my soul leaving my body. Like I wanted to leave. Like it was so like I already know that SNL is terrible and has been terrible, and like maybe always was terrible. I've never liked it, so it's already like there's this awkward formula of like people standing in front of a live audience, facing said live audience, and just like loudly screaming their lines at them, and like it's such a weird, stilted, awkward form of like performance that it's always felt like I'm always like, is the point of the show that you just laugh at the adults, like these grown ass
Yes.
adults that are just really embarrassing? Is that the joke?
Yes.
Like it's like
Yes.
it's the same cringe you get from like Mega 64 basically, but less on purpose. I've never gotten it, but watching that fucking Mario trial and like you have like an Elon Musk dressed as Wario and they're like not getting Wario's character or his voice right, and he doesn't know how to do a Wario voice. And I think Grimes did Peach and gave Peach an Italian accent, and it's like I get your whole personality of being the cool billionaire is pandering to gamers on a really, really rudimentary, like base level, like over and over again, and it's never a clever way. It's always like the most base level nerd references and like Reddit front page bullshit. But like not even getting what Wario and Peach sound like is impressive. And like getting the basic ideas of the joke wrong is like Elon's a fake gamer girl. Like, he's impersonating being a gamer so that the guillotines don't come. Like that's his whole survival strategy. Like I was like, and it was so revealed live when it's like the SNL actors and Elon and no one there in that room understood Mario, the most popular gaming property. No one could step in and make any of it work, let alone be funny, because I skipped over that.
Let alone be funny, yeah.
None of it was successfully funny either, but it was also just like distractingly like not even based on Mario in any successful way. This is a show that it's been going on for years.
Well, yeah,
Decades.
but I mean, things that go on for a long time don't necessarily mean they're good.
What is the audience? What are they
Not
getting out of
good.
it? Whatever the
Nothing.
audience is, they don't get the Mario jokes, I don't think. If that's their base, if that's the comedy they're used to, usually it's like I've seen some SNL shit and it's like any of this attempted nerdy references, I don't think they get it. Also, the
Wait a
audio
minute.
is also incompetent. Like the audio mixing was bad. Like every time they hit a stupid block and a copyrighted fucking like Mario sound plays, and I'm like, can you do that? It's playing at like maximum fucking volume, like it's like watching a fucking like tutorial on YouTube, and when the tutorial starts with like a fucking maximum volume CG intro of the dude's name, and then it cuts to like, hey guys, how you doing? Like it was like that was SNL. It's like the fucking coin noises hurt to listen to, but everything else was so much quieter. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this show? They don't even have audio engineering.
Yeah, they probably
Or
don't. They probably can't
writers?
afford them.
Have you ever heard of a compressor?
I was fascinated, but yeah, I guess the
I
B
don't-
plot is
I don't-
that
yeah.
his jokes about Dogecoin and so on plummeted the stock price.
Because
You guys know more about
when you
that.
started talking about SNL, I thought he was like the guest or something. No,
He was the host.
You really went ahead? He's the presenter now?
Well, there's a
Well, I
guest
mean,
host every
he's
episode.
only there for a single episode. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
That's the
okay.
format of the shows. There's a musical guest that performs, and there's a guest host that is like the celebrity host of that episode. It's basically like Make-A-Wish Foundation, but for celebrities, where like you have like the person going like, you're going to be the star of this silly thing, and they let the kid with cancer like kick a field goal at the end of the NFL, not NHL, kick a field goal on the ice. It'd be a little dangerous. You let the
What
kid
sports were
that's-
you interested in on your Twitter, by the way?
like you let the kid that's dying in a month go play the sport for a second, and all the big athletes all like play along and have fun with it, and it's all for fun and all that. It's like that, but for celebrities. So you get like some Elon Musk dude, and then you pretend he's funny, and everyone like waits on his hand and foot and makes a bunch of skits around his boring interests for an episode, and then he gets to be in every fucking skit, and they're almost always the worst part of the episode, and you're like, all right, let's get through this. And then and that's, I guess, the show every week for an hour and a half.
Yep.
Television is weird.
It was
Anybody, anytime has
Are-
difficulty understanding what Let's Plays are. They're nothing in comparison to actual television.
Yeah.
People are just used to it.
We got a bird
I
this
don't
week.
know.
Was there any topics you wanted to get to this week?
It was mostly just the SNL thing, and then the other thing that was on my mind was complaining about Audacity, since we all use that.
What did Audacity do? Is it doing it right now?
yeah.
Do you have
So-
no audio right now?
Oh no. Thank God. No, I'm not recording with Audacity. I'm going through OBS because do not change a ship in the middle of the sea. But no, so Audacity recently got acquired by the Muse Group, which is the same people that own Muse Score and Ultimate Guitar. And one of the very first things that they did was they sent out a request, a code change where they're now collecting telemetry data, which means that I don't think that they actually merged this code change because the backlash was really strong. But basically, they were adding in an opt-in feature where you could send your like operating system data and like all that stuff to their Google Analytics platform, and they would use that for like, you know,
Data.
bug fixes and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
everyone was
the adage
like,
where every
"What the fuck?"
if anything's free, you're the product.
Yeah, people were like, "What the fuck? Why are you like this program has been around for 30 years and it's literally never had any reason to
30
connect to the
years?
internet."
And it's also
I don't-
open source. It's not just free. It's
How
open
old
source.
is it? I think it came.
Oh
I think
my
Audacity came out in the 90s, right?
I think no. I'm looking at the
Jesus
wiki page.
Christ!
It's 21 years.
Okay,
21 years.
Audacity was released in
20.
2000,
It was
so
released in
20 years
2000,
ago.
yeah.
Okay,
Damn.
but the point is, this is the first time they've ever added anything to have it like connect to the internet. So of course, not only is that like the telemetry change is like a big thing that everyone hates, it also added in like a whole bunch of libraries for here's how you connect to the internet and stuff like that. And some people were like, "Hey, we were like, why?"
Mhm.
Like we run
Well,
this
because
specifically
this thing
on
was acquired
boxes
by someone that wants
because-
money.
Yeah, people were like, we run this on boxes that like don't have any connection to the internet to begin with. So like, is this the direction that the product's going to be going in? Like,
Fork it.
yeah,
It's
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, it's just fork
it's
it
super
already.
disappointing. I don't know if they actually went through with it because I've never seen a code change on GitHub get ratioed before.
Jesus.
This one got ratioed. It's like 20 thumbs down for every one thumbs up on the code change, which is like thousands and thousands. Is just just saying the sentence "I got ratioed on GitHub" is fucking hilarious, but it actually happened.
Yeah.
It just sounds impossible as a concept. Like,
The
what are
open
you
source
saying to me?
community. The open source community can be absolutely brutal in its defense of certain stuff. Like,
Open source, I'm so glad it exists, but by God, am I never going to try and contribute to it?
it's so it's a real
stronger person needs to
spiderweb.
be the stewards of that, but no way am I doing it.
When I started learning about things when I was like 18 through 20 something, I was really involved in a couple of projects, Firefox specifically in support, but also OpenOffice. Was it OpenOffice at the time? I think it was called OpenOffice. Yeah, OpenOffice.org was.
I think we still have
Yeah.
OpenOffice.
Yeah. Yeah, but it got forked because the company was really bad. I think it was it wasn't Canonical. Was it Oracle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they forked it into LibreOffice, and then later on, even LibreOffice got forked. But I think the sort of mainstay is the
That
is
when the
LibreOffice,
main
I think.
company does some bad practices or starts trying to take it in a direction, so all the people that are outside of that little group just like take the source code they have so far and just take off with
Yep.
it and make it something
Yeah.
else.
And it was over something completely minor as well. I think it was like maybe they were adding a few more option windows on something, or I think it was like something
Egad.
irrelevant. Yeah, and like for Audacity to come in with the audacity, I had to make the joke to connect to the internet. Like this is definitely a fork moment.
How
This is the
darest
stuff that
thee.
happens. Especially because it's such a small software. It's just recording audio file.
Oh my!
I mean,
there
it has
had to be at least
multi-track.
one commenter on GitHub that asked how they had the audacity to do this.
Of course, yeah. And that comment also got ratioed.
No, they that's get upvotes. All the upvotes.
Oh, you
People
think
like
so?
people like puns. They just performatively don't like them.
I don't like
I
them.
don't think that's true.
You're welcome to be wrong.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right. But I think this is a fork moment. That's one of the many reasons why open source is just everything should be open source. Everything.
I unleashed one while
I'm
we were watching.
so
We were watching
mixed
Tenet
on-
this weekend, and I unleashed one because in the opening scene, it just cold opens on like some kind of fucking operation happening in like a fucking like opera chamber or someone. Like you have all these people like playing their violins and shit, and like people come up with guns to come at them. I'm like, what the fuck's happening? And I'm like, oh my god, they're orchestrating some kind of plan. And it just got a lot of looks.
yeah.
So is that
Now
it?
I've repeated it.
Yeah, so I
enjoy.
guess all I'm saying is we all use Audacity. Don't update it.
I'm vindicated
what's a
for my
rough position to
behavior.
be in, right? Is like, do you update it in case there's a big security issue? But also, it's like
There's no security
It doesn't
issue.
even have any internet connectivity to begin with. Like, it's only introducing vectors for it to become less secure. you know?
Yeah. The most
Such
secure.
a
It's in some of these
annoying
cases, the seemingly the least secure, the most insecure thing about a program would just be the fact that it has this thing built into it where it downloads data to update itself. That's like the most
doesn't even
questionable.
have
That's the most questionable thing it has.
It doesn't even have an auto updater. Like if you click on the check update, it goes to a web page. It's not an actual auto updater. It's just a link.
There's a lot
That's
of
fantastic.
I have a lot of
Yeah,
programmers
that's how
that
it-
I have
It's
a lot
so
of
well
programs that-
built.
yeah. A lot of the programs that I like need don't have any kind of auto update feature at all. They basically just want you to download the program again if you want new ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I think that's voice meter and virtual audio cable and technically OBS. I think they have a manual updater now.
No OBS. Yeah,
but
update also.
Audacity and
Yeah,
Handbrake and Twitch Leecher. This is what I would use to download bird
just don't add
streams.
internet capability whatsoever to your software, and it'll immediately make me way happier. Like,
Mhm.
I would rather not have an auto updater if it means that there's no ability for it to connect to the internet at all. That's a happy trade-off for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, and you had a topic this week, didn't you, Colonel?
I did. Like a few weeks ago, there was this bit of a kerfuffle because there's this big Twitch streamer that raised some dust because she was complaining about people shaming her and other streamers for playing games on easy, and so she has a big. I think it's her article on Polygon.com. No, it's not her article. It's somebody else's. But I kind of wanted to bounce some stuff off of you because obviously we play. Well, Bird. I don't know about you, Bird. If you play a lot of difficult games on your channel.
Huh. Joke's on you. I don't play anything on my channel.
Ah.
Nah, I've gotten a lot better about
Yeah.
that.
There was a period where it was a race, where it was like, oh, it's been 3 weeks now. Who's going to come back after April's Fools first, Andrew or Bird? Because like it was a stretching time where you both uploaded April Fool's Day videos and then vanished from the internet. And I'm like, was that the real joke? Or you just both quit YouTube for the month?
Got him.
It was a nice month, but then you reminded me.
Free
And I was
from
like,
scrutiny. It is a lot lower
So-
pressure if you just keep recording Let's Plays but never upload any of them. Just put them in your folder. And like, that was nice. I'll never hear back again.
So yeah, basically people get given. Oh, well, we know that because we play hard games, and we also know the self-imposed pressure. At least I know on my side the self-imposed pressure of playing them on harder difficulties or on harder modes. sometimes that happens, not all the time. I do play a lot of games on normal as well. Sometimes it depends. But every once in a while, people will just circle back to the discussion of things like, should Dark Souls have an easy mode, or are easy modes? Are you even getting the correct experience if you're playing the game on easy or stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
And
in fact, Dark Souls itself is like this very now it's a very boring go-to like crutch. It's like the go-to like crutch response to that is people just echo the same argument about Dark Souls every single time about like the artistic vision of the idea, and you're not getting the proper experience if you don't play Dark Souls on the highest difficulty or whatever. And even though Dark Souls itself has several soft difficulties because you have the ability to like over and under level, and it has multiplayer and NPC summoning and so on, so like Souls games themselves don't have a set difficulty, but those people don't seem to know. They either don't think about Dark Souls that much, or they've literally never played them and just trot it out as their elitist example because they heard someone else say it and it sounded smart that time, and that's where most opinions come from.
I will, like, you're absolutely right. I think elitist might not be the correct term. I think gatekeeping, just in general, might work a little bit better because I think there might be
the Venn diagram between gatekeeping and elitism is a slightly lumpy circle.
It's lumpy. What I mean to say, like, I'm trying to empathize with a possible person who is doing that gatekeeping here, because I come from obviously playing RPGs growing up. I know full well what it is like to not be able to finish games, either because they are very difficult or because I didn't understand them or stuff like that, and also knowing the reward of eventually going back to them and finishing them and having a different experience because now I understand them a little bit better, where I was forced to understand them and all that sort of stuff. What I'm trying to say is that I think there is a certain tendency that we have when we play a game, and it doesn't matter what game it is. It doesn't have to be difficult. It can be literally any game. Like we were talking just before the podcast, we started recording the podcast. We were talking about Outer Wilds, as we do often, and that game is a good example of a game that has a certain kind of experience that, at least for me, I got an experience that I wish other people got as well, and that the marvel of discovering that world and finding like the little details and the storyline and how it just expands and contracts every once in a while and does its thing up until the end. It's a whole journey, but it's also a whole journey that is very shaped by the constraints that the game puts on me, right? That the game doesn't tell me some stuff or tells me other stuff that misdirects and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't have anything to do with difficulty. It has to do with my perspective, right? Because if I go back to it now, I don't get the same experience. But when a game is very difficult, like a game like Dark Souls, and it forces you to...
Outer Wilds is the game where New Game Plus is easy mode.
Yeah, exactly. In Dark Souls, I think people can be fooled into thinking that just because you're playing Dark Souls and this boss is really kicking your butt, and then you're forced to learn all the intricacies and timings of the boss's attack and your own sword's attack, and that experience is very rewarding and very fun. That experience isn't just because of how difficult the game is, and I think people miss that aspect when they go they go and complain, especially when they're just trying to push it on streamers. I'm really going out of my way to
as somebody who has like 1,000 Dark Souls videos at this point, I'm somebody who constantly has to re-explain my nuanced point on the fact that like it's like one of my favorite things ever made, but I don't give a shit about its difficulty. I'm 100% not here because, oh my god, hardcore, I'm so cool for playing hard game. It's like, no, I don't even value the hardness of Dark Souls. I just see the difficulty as a byproduct of how intelligently made it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. But I also, like, what I'm trying to say is that if you hold on to it doesn't have to be the difficulty. It might be just you being capable of understanding the game design and you get a nice experience from it. If you hold on to that one aspect that gave you the one experience that you like and then you wish other people have, you're also forgetting that other people can have very valid and very rewarding experiences as well because of different things. from the same game. And and that's why I think the decoupling of the difficulty level, or the question about the difficulty of the game, or if you're playing on story mode, or if you're using cheats, it doesn't matter. The decoupling of that discussion from the discussion of the experience that people have, the subjective sort of very perspective based experience that people have of any game. The decoupling needs to exist for this conversation to actually lead anywhere. Because on the one side, there's the absolutely right people that complain that people harass them, and fuck harassers, it's awful. Just don't do that. Why? Just no, terrible. But on the other hand, there's also, I think, there's room. I'm not saying that there's people who actually think like I'm trying to maybe think that they do, but there's room for people to make an argument from a place where there's experiences that are difficult to replicate in games, and sometimes you need either obviously to go in blind sometimes, or other times you need to have an understanding of like, for example, playing Baldur's Gate. It's a game for me that I played it when I was a kid and I didn't know anything, and it took me a while to finish it because it's complicated. It's a difficult game. But playing Baldur's Gate these days without a more or less solid understanding of how Dungeons and Dragons works, you're not going to have a good experience. So I think that anybody that goes into that game without knowing a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, you're just not going to get the game. It's like playing, you're just not going to have a fun time. But maybe you are.
The entire discussion sidesteps the subjectivity of difficulty as a concept, and like how like when I play Metroid Prime for the Patreon and I do it on the Wii, it's like, this is my first ever like proper feature length Wii action game, and so like it's unusually difficult for me compared to people who literally grew up with the Wii, which I did not. I skipped over the Wii entirely, for example. And then you have like a game like Hades, where like I did super well and literally rolled credits in 25 runs, and there's people who are like, it took me 50 runs to beat Hades once, let alone do all the stuff it takes to like roll the credits and beat the story. It's like Hades is a game that has such a massively different difficulty from person to person, and so like the idea that there's some sort of like objective concept of difficulty is kind of up there. That's why games like Resident Evil have adaptive difficulty settings where they quote unquote like punish you for doing them well, essentially, by making the game harder, and to make the game easier when you're struggling with the game. And that's because of the fact that the game is trying to perform a really specific balancing act of how tense things should be and how much trouble you should be in and how much you're like kind of worrying about your ammo and your resources and so on. And if it doesn't perfectly adapt the entire game to how well you're playing it, then that balance they're hoping for will happen to like 10 people, and then everybody else, the game's either too easy or too hard, which is most games. Like I'll always get these comments, like people get mad when I have an easy time against a Dark Souls 3 boss like Pontiff Sullivan or something, because it's like a betrayal of their experience because they didn't have the experience that I had of struggling with such boss and so on. And it's like
it's the same discussion. You're absolutely right. It's a betrayal of their experience.
It's a big, messy, Orbis nonsense thing that doesn't pan out. The perfectly balanced experience that people are championing and defending here, like, exists for almost nobody. Like, it's a completely personal experience, and they're trying to make the personal experience standardized, and that's just fucking folly.
Yeah, I think it's a. Maybe it works for some games, but looking at Let's Players or streamers for a reflection of how you play games or a reflection of what you got out of a game.
Yeah, it's like, well, like, were you playing a game live with a chat? Because it's fundamentally a different experience already, playing it with a weird level of scrutiny.
But even then, I think I get a lot of having finished Prey recently. I got a lot of people watching Prey that I knew, and they said that like they had finished and watched Prey a bunch of times already. They know the game inside out, and they were still enjoying it because it's a game. It's got a lot of details and it's got a lot of room for you to learn more things as you play through it again. And so I think it's probably the best example that I can think of a game that is enjoyable to watch somebody else play. even though you played it already, and even though if they might have a different experience from you, you're still going to enjoy it, because I think even the fact of somebody noticing
if you're
details,
the right kind of viewer.
Yeah, that's the thing. Some people are just not that.
There's a certain level of emotional intelligence that comes with the very idea of watching blind Let's Plays and enjoying them. Like, there's a certain... you have to be a certain kind of person who understands the format and goes in knowing what to expect and understanding what you actually want from the experience. And a lot of viewers fundamentally don't really know what they want and when it comes to those kinds of things, and it shows with how they react.
Yeah, it's getting
that's
past
often what's enjoyable about the whole thing.
I for sure. I remember.
So.
You don't
I
like
literally
I
commissioned a blind Let's Play. The was it it's a weird way to put it, but it's because I finished Resident Evil 7, and I was like, I mean, I was like addicted to watching other people play Resident Evil 7, so I literally made a second blind playthrough by having Andrew play it just on my own channel, just because I wanted more on top of the other ones that I was watching already. And
I remember you did it like a co-op, but no co-op.
Yeah, well, I just hung out on the couch next to Andrew, and I was like, play Resident Evil 7 for my channel and your channel or whatever. And we just like did another Resident Evil Let's Play, even though I'd already done one. And like that's a lot of fun in that specific shared experience of like kind of it's like the proxy experience of re-experiencing the game like through another person in a really specific way.
But you see why I think the word elitist might not fit quite as well. Like you mentioned an example that is very good for that gatekeeping.
Yeah, the idea that you're like you wish the experience that you had on other people, and are like
we're the same.
And are sad that I might not have. And I get that to some extent. Like there's a previous episode of podcast on my channel that would feature the discussion of the game Fury. And specifically, I had played the game on the intended difficulty, because that and somebody else had played the game on easy. And in Fury's case in particular, it's a thing that doesn't always come up in these topics of like giving every game an easy mode is just the idea that like you have to make it, and you have to make it well, because like you don't just like toggle on easy mode as a thing that's just built into Unity or whatever. Like you have to you have to design all of the easy mode. And unfortunately, at least at launch, this might still be true too, the easy mode of Fury, like Fury was these big like 7-stage boss battles where you fought against these big difficult enemies, and you each had a health bar, and whenever your health bars went down, you lost a life. And if you lost your health bar, if you lost a life, that just meant your health bar came back, but you only had so many of them, like normal health bars. But every time the boss lost a life, they went to the next phase, and the next phase was a completely different fight in many cases. And so it was this big multi-stage boss fight, and being a series of multi-stage boss fights was the entire game. And the easy mode just they warped the numbers so you did a lot of damage and took a lot less damage, but also only gave every boss fight 3 phases. But and worst of all, the worst thing about this is that you would just like mindlessly hack through each phase like it was fucking Dynasty Warriors on normal. Like you would just like it was just nothing. It was like just butter. But all of said phases were just lazily copy pasted from normal difficulty. And like as you get through the campaign, the game keeps getting harder and harder and harder and more and just absurd. It's like it has like that near stuff going on where you have like bullet hell stuff, but you also have like Sekiro style timed counterattacks and so on. Andrew should probably play the game actually if he hasn't already. I don't remember if he's played Fury.
Yeah, I've already beaten Fury.
Yeah, and what sucks is easy mode's difficult. What easy mode would do is just lazily pick the 3 easiest phases and also buff your stats like crazy and just let you sleepwalk through each fight, which was silly because it's not like there's much story to get through, so it's like you're not really getting to anything by skipping the content.
Yeah.
But around like 2/3 of the way into the game, there is a particular boss fight that doesn't really have any easy phases. And so what happens is the phases they've picked for easy mode are still crushingly difficult, and because you didn't play the game through on the normal difficulty that would have taught you how to deal with that kind of phase, you have no idea how the fuck to beat it. Like it's incomprehensible based on if you only have experienced the game up to that point via the easy mode, which of course you have. You're playing it on easy mode, so like there's a difficulty spec that's completely incongruous because of how lazily made this easy mode was, and that's not, I don't see that as necessarily as an argument against the very concept of easier modes, so much as a blight on that game's quality is the fact that it puts in an easy mode that not only it's worse than not having an easy mode. It's an actively bad piece of content, and that's a poor representation of the game. And so like that's the thought that needs to be put into this stuff a little bit more. Is when you talk about difficulties, it would be it adaptive difficulty or selectable difficulties. There's a lot of really careful choices that had to be made there. Because I played Doom, and like when you launch a Doom game, they overwhelm me with like 5 difficulty options. And you're like, I don't fucking know. How does anyone know? Only Doom players know, and for the Doom players that actually already know, most of these options are pointless to them because they've played the game enough that only the top 2 are relevant now to them. But like, there's like Wolfenstein and Doom have a ton of difficulty levels, but they don't like do a good job at giving you a feel of whether or not you would like them, and you can only really know by trying the game for a few hours and getting past the learning curve, and then like starting over if you feel like you might be on the wrong difficulty. It's like it's not
No, you
the
can
most
change it.
elegant system.
You can change it when you die, and then you can change it back.
Yeah, but you try and get like the it's just the
Wasn't that
awkwardness
what
of trying to
happened
get
to
like
you?
the ideal experience.
That's what Doom will do,
That's a poor interface element of Doom Eternal, is that you keep having to click on the load checkpoint button every time you die, but right next to like load checkpoint will be a surprise option to lower the difficulty sometimes. You have to like dodge.
But you can't up it again, though.
Because you accidentally click on it, it'll surprise you and put you in a low difficulty, and you're like, fuck, no, God damn it, I was just in Super Meat Boy mode of reflexively hitting the start the chapter again button because I keep having to click it, and you fucking moved the interface with the surprise thing. But that's a whole separate discussion of bad interface design. Like how in Captain is Dead, randomly the fucking random other commands are sometimes where the end turn button is, and you're like, don't mix those up. Don't do that.
I can tell where they're going with that game, but the interface needs work.
Oh yeah.
I think I've said my stance on difficulties before, but I can just repeat it here real quick. For me, I almost think about it from a perspective of like accessibility too. If you have somebody who's had like a neurological problem or something, and their reaction times are impeded because of something completely outside of their control, you can be a little bit exclusive if you don't provide some abilities to players to like tune these sorts of things. But then again, that also runs into the problem that Keith was bringing up, where it's like, how will anyone know what all these parameters mean? So like it almost lends itself to thinking like you package a couple of preset difficulties of like easy, medium, or hard or whatever, but then make basically everything tunable by just going into like some .ini files and say like, yeah, I don't need health to be increased, I just need a couple of extra milliseconds to react to stuff. Something like that could be super good. But then again, what do I know? Because there's a blind guy who played Hades, and he beat it on a higher heat than I ever will. So that was really cool to watch.
Yeah,
He got up to like heat 10 or something. It's just amazing.
That's like the one heartwarming element of AAA gaming, is the fact that like so much of AAA development and everything is just disappointing, and the games themselves are so uninspired and just a bummer, and their workers are being mistreated. There's like 100 bad things, but the one surprisingly good thing is there's an almost shocking emphasis on accessibility in I think both Microsoft and Sony are doing this at this point. And I saw somebody going through the accessibility options in like The Last of Us Part 2, and how everyone, like all the characters are like colorful like silhouettes, essentially. Like the screen, like the game's unrecognizable essentially played in this mode, because it's like in a high contrast mode for people that are like really poor of eyesight. And like I
think, what is it, like Call of Duty has 4 different color blindness modes, based off of which specific ones you have.
And I guess those have a checkered past with like colorblind modes often just being like lazily just like copied from like a template, and the template is wrong. So like because they don't have anyone in house to test it.
It's
There's
like a post processing feature. Yeah.
There's unfortunately a bunch of colorblind modes in games that just are completely ineffective. I think Super Bunny Hop got into that. But yeah, like it's crazy seeing like you play through a game like Spider-Man or Last of Us, and you're like, wow, look at all these graphics and all this gameplay style stuff and all this interesting things that went into it, and you have a completely different experience. And then you see like somebody go through this stuff, you're like, wait, how much stuff is under the hood of this game, of like the different ways you can experience it just to make it accessible to more people. And it's really, that stuff's really impressive, but and unfortunately completely outside of the range of what could be even handled by most like independent developers, because it's like intensive stuff, but it's surprisingly wholesome.
The thing with accessibility is that it has to be like, for sure there's technical issues, there's technical things that are important, like being aware of seizures that might be caused by your game, or the contrast issues, or people who are hard of hearing or deaf. And there's a bunch of like very specific things that you can do, but I also think that there's a lot of other accessibility features that I think specifically Nintendo has a hard time dealing with, for example, motion movements, or even like stuff like being able to pause a game is an accessibility feature, or stuff like good journals in the games. But for RPGs, it matters so much that you being able to play a game, even if it's just half an hour a day. There's a lot of RPGs that are very difficult to keep track of, because you need to remember all these details, and just having a good journal in the game and having access to all the quests and all that, and remembering who is whom. And it's not just a matter of having the name, it's having a face as well, because for a lot of people names don't mean anything, or vice versa, faces don't mean anything and names mean a lot, because humans are very varied, and having a holistic perspective to accessibility, no matter what genre of game it is, it could be a difficult game or it could be just a storytelling game, it needs to happen everywhere, I think. And I think it's just a matter of creating this culture of game developers having that in mind, and people being, having a reasonable chance of expecting a game to have accessibility features that allows them to enjoy games.
The other point that I usually make when I talk about this and like easy mode and accessibility is that if you have an easy mode, don't insult the people that use it. Don't call it like baby shader mode or whatever. Like, come on, man.
That's just gatekeeping nonsense. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Wolfenstein does that, I think.
Wolfenstein, I give a pass on it because it's nostalgic, and
I was gonna say those were
in the 90s.
Those were.
Are you gonna pick the pacifier piss baby mode?
And I was talking about the newest one.
It takes Blazkowicz and gives him like a binky and stuff.
Yeah, there's no excuse to do that outside of the fact that it's clearly a reference and making fun of it. But if you have a new game, like Wolfenstein is the only one I give a pass on. Nobody else should ever do it.
Now I'm gonna make a game where you click on easy mode and it prompts up and it goes, "Are you sure you want to be a dumb baby?" And you click yes, and then it goes, "All right, you dumb baby, let me tell you how to play the game. Press A to continue," and you press A, and it goes like, "Good, you did one thing. Congratulations. The next thing is coming up, so get ready, dumb baby." And like the whole game is just constantly insulting you for that.
That actually sounds kind of funny.
I do kind of want to play Andrew's aggressively passive-aggressive fucking video game.
That's not even passive-aggressive. That's just like super aggressive.
I can actually see somebody making a very amusing little indie game. Like, just release it for free on itch.io. And it's like, you're locked away from playing on normal or hard. You have to start on easy. It insults you the entire fucking time. And then when you get to the end of the tutorial, you beat the game and normal mode is unlocked or something.
And then in my game, you
click on normal mode and it just rolls the credits.
No, so there is I'm gonna make it. There's gonna be an easy mode that's the base of the game. You can buy very easy mode as DLC for 99 cents. Very easy mode. Literally will not progress a single word of the tutorial until you press A to continue.
No, that's also an accessibility feature. You need to have an auto clicker.
Well, the whole point is that not supposed to be accessible. It's supposed to just insult the shit out of you.
As somebody who
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
really
The
need
condescending idea of accessible.
Yeah, as somebody who doesn't really need accessibility options, one of my favorite byproducts of accessibility options is holding for QuickTime events.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that can't mash a button, and I'm like, I don't want to mash a button, so I'll take this too. Thank you, dear God.
Yeah, really.
I'm so
Yeah.
tired of fucking mashing X to open a chest or something, because Kratos can decapitate a dude with one button to press, but needs to press it 10 times to open a box. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold X. Fuck you.
Yes.
Thank you for this.
I also liked. I love that The Last of Us 2 had the like, oh, just hold a button and you just open every drawer and pick it up
Yeah.
automatically.
Or like
it's
how
like
in-
yes,
or like
thank
how in
you. I don't want
fucking-
to press X.
Every time you open a grate in Batman, you're like, here we go again. It's gonna
Yeah.
mash
But
you
it
need
X
to
to open a
mash-
worst
grate.
mechanic. Every time I see it, I'm filled
Oh
with
my God.
hatred.
It's so pointless. I want.
Do you,
I mean, honestly, I want most QuickTime events removed from video games, just in general.
Agreed.
I remember
They're
a time
almost
when
never
QuickTime
good.
events. I remember a time when QuickTime events, and specifically the mash button thing, did not exist. They started with the
Yeah.
Xbox 360.
No,
Resident Evil
Shenmue.
4.
Shenmue on Dreamcast.
Really?
Yeah. Shenmue on Dreamcast not only had QuickTime events during cutscenes, but they were permanent.
You're right.
So instead of being like, game over, try again, Lara Croft, you got decapitated. It's like, wow, that guy got away. Anyway, on with the story. Like you just have to live with that. So it's like the Until Dawn approach to QuickTime events, where it is the story. And if you're gonna do
don't
them,
know-
at least do them that way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if that's worse or better because
I never. The entire reason I can currently do a blind playthrough of Resident Evil 4 sometime in the future is because of QuickTime events.
you
because
didn't
I-
get the right ending.
No, I bought the game on PC back
Oh, you couldn't.
before.
I remember the story.
Back
Yeah,
before everything was on Steam and everything used an Xbox controller. So it was like you press 1, but like circled 1, which means not 1 on the keyboard, but like 1 on whatever the fuck gamepad language they were running with, whatever, who knows. And so I would sit there and I would be like, I just got run over by a boulder over and over again. And I kept like, I would just mash different buttons on my keyboard to try to find what the run button was, because in the boulder sequence you run from a boulder by mashing a button, and eventually I found the button that you do to run. But then when you run for a little bit, Leon then has to jump out of the way, and jumping out of the way is 2 buttons at the same time, and neither of them were the run button. So in order to continue the game, I'd have to find what combination of random 2 keys on my keyboard represented the gamepad buttons I would need to dodge. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm never beating this game. This is $20 at Walmart in the garbage. I just bought a disc copy of Resident Evil 4 for the PC, and it was not playable. I did not own a controller for my computer.
Yeah, and then even if you had the controller, it'd still be 1 and 2s and whatnots.
Yeah, and who knows if it was even the right controller or whatever, because like we were pre the universal approach of just every controller is just the controllers from consoles.
For me, a memory that's gonna be stored in my mind forever. Well, maybe not forever, but for a long time. It's a game that I actually liked a lot. Dying Light is a little zombie game.
Dying Light is very good.
I liked it a lot. It was fun, but the ending for me is ruined because it's like this big like storyline climax and just and then right at the very end there are a few. I think it's the only. I'm not sure. I recall it to be the only QuickTime events in the game, and there are a few during the cutscene. There's QuickTime events. And I was just watching the cutscene, and then I died. And then what? And then it reloads immediately before the QuickTime event. So I just and I died again. Yeah. And it completely ruined the tone because I just died a bunch of times before I clicked X or whatever.
There's a surprising number of AAA video game endings where they like basically couldn't finish implementing the ending. So, or like they ran out of ideas or development time. So instead of having like a proper set piece or a boss fight that's interactive or so on, although sometimes they do just kind of get. Sometimes you have Batman where it's like, why am I fighting Hulk Joker? This is a weird choice. But you have games that like just seemingly couldn't finish implementing a proper complex finale that would pay off the whole game's systems up until then. So instead they just have a cutscene that resolves the story and you lightly interact with it. And so yeah, in some games like Dying Light, you like have to do a QTE for some reason. And then you have like really bizarrely Uncharted 1. ends with like an incredibly strange segment where you're like, I think you're on a helipad with the villain, and you have to perform it's technically not QTEs, but you have to perform a series of really specific scripted actions in order as like a stealthy approach to the guy to like catch him off guard and defeat him or whatever the fuck. And so it's just trial and error of you like, do I go this way? Nope, dead. Do I do dead?
Oh,
Nope,
crap.
dead. And you just like trial and error
That
to this
kills
really
the mood
specific
so
thing
much.
in order to defeat the thing, because they made the final boss quote unquote hard by just instant killing you over and over again until you figured out the specific thing you had to do. It was like, it's like if Uncharted, instead of being a third-person cover-based shooter with let's face it, zero variance in gameplay, it's just the same cover-based shooting the entire game, and then sometimes Tomb Raider wall climbing. It's like if the game was suddenly Limbo. Like, that's how the game ends. Like, it ends with Limbo gameplay, where you're just like, I just got to figure out how to survive this screen now. Like, that completely different design philosophy at the end of the game.
You know what game I feel did an extremely good job of tying up the mechanics and stuff into a satisfying ending was Half-Life 2, because it's the easiest part of the entire game.
Especially episode 2.
Oh, I didn't play.
I haven't actually beaten episode 2. But
You mean
in the base game of Half-Life 2, the ending
Really?
is the easiest part of the game. You get a super overpowered weapon that's built off of the mechanics of the most fun weapon in the game.
Oh yeah, they tried to do that with
and-
Alex. It was bad.
Yeah, and you just get to fucking like rip, man. And it's like, yeah, the only downside is that it is extremely easy, but it's like a culmination of like, you've mastered the game. You just knock yourself out for 10 minutes with a super overpowered version of your favorite gun. That was really satisfying.
I recall being really let down with the ending of Half-Life 2. So much
could
so
see
that I
it being
never played.
divisive because it was so easy. But
I think
like,
I think
I
it
would
was
rather
because-
take that than a fucking QTE.
Then Half-Life 1, where the ending is super hard. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
The ending is super difficult in Half-Life 1. My problem with Half-Life 2, I think more than anything, was just it didn't lead to any story. It was like, oh, you didn't finish the game. Gotcha.
Yeah. Miss.
Because it was just like they cut the game halfway through. Oh, and also is it me or should they not have the weird obsession with the G-Men?
I mean, I don't have the full picture yet because I still haven't played the first game.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But I lack
Then
some of
what?
the context for what's going on. Yeah, I've only played. I played Half-Life. I started the franchise with Half-Life 2 Episode 1 because, to be
That's
fair,
weird.
it's very poorly named. It sure sounds like the beginning of Half-Life 2, but it's actually the second part of Half-Life 2, which is its own.
There's a
That's a marketing problem. That's a fucking like that's a labeling mistake. This should have been like Half-Life Chronicles Episode 1 or something, but it's like literally called Half-Life 2 Episode 1. That means it's part 1. What the fuck? What do you mean it's part 2?
It says 1.
But no, I made my Steam account just to play my first Steam account that's gone now. I made my first Steam account to play Half-Life 2 Episode 1, which I bought as a physical disc and then had to make a Steam account to play it.
Yep.
And then I
same
lost the
for me.
password because it was a password for one video game. What the fuck? So my Steam account just ends with a 2 because I just used the same name again and added a 2 to the end. Then that's the one that I use now all the time and has thousands of games. But no, I played Half-Life 2 Episode 2, which starts with the super gravity gun. So I had another iffy exposure to the continuity of the whole thing because I start off with a super gravity gun, then downgrade to a normal gravity gun because that's how
weird.
That's how Episode 1 starts. But it's definitely it's a cool payoff of like if you don't want to go difficulty and just want power fantasy, it's definitely an approach that you just take the thing. It's like, oh, that thing you used to pick up physical objects and launch them at people. Well, now you can pick up people with them and kill them instantly. It's I'm Godzilla in this game now, which is that's one way to end a game for sure, and it's fun. And Half-Life Alyx is so fun and so engaging. I had a great time with that game all around, and it was just a really cool game. But the most disappointing part is that it ends with like the gravity gun again, in that the whole game you play with Alex's gloves, and she can kind of gravity gun stuff with a gesture where she can bring stuff to her hands, and that's their way of getting around you having to like bend over and pick shit up the whole game. And in the end, they're like, what if the gloves were like super now and they had like more power than before? And it's like, you've done this before. This game was mostly stuff you haven't done before, and you ended it with stuff you've done before. But no, Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ends with one of the best examples of actually having a mechanical culmination that's like a challenging set piece that's also thrilling and other stuff and so on. So if you prefer the other one, then the real ending of Half-Life 2 that it does end with that now, as of 2007.
For me, the episodes were always tainted because I didn't like the ending of Half-Life 2, and also because they promised there were going to be 3 episodes.
Yeah,
and one every 6 months. Yeah,
infamously,
one every 6 months. They took forever to do everything, and I was like, oh, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, it's incredibly obvious seconds into starting Half-Life Alyx that they're like, we have to address the fact that this franchise has just stopped on a cliffhanger for the last X number of years.
Yeah.
Like they literally, like, without spoiling anything that actually happens in said game, literally the opening text screen of Half-Life Alyx is X number of years before. Like it literally opens referring to that, and it's like, oh shit, are we dealing with that or something? Because this is a prequel. What the fuck does that mean? And they just have that question dangle over your head for like the next 20 hours.
The other thing for me is that I don't play games necessarily for the storyline. Like,
That's
to know when I say
good
storyline,
approach. That's usually safe.
when I say storyline, I do mean like, ooh, what happens next? No, I don't. It's not about the what; it's the how. Always how. And it could. That's why sequels that don't deal necessarily with the same characters are totally okay for me. I also grew up with that sort of mentality as well. Sequels are just here's a new tale in this world. It used to be more like that than it is these days, I think.
Zelda.
Zelda is a good example, yeah. Final Fantasy.
The two things that I play video games for are story and excuse to mess around and see what I can break. So Half-Life 2 is actually a pretty good thing there.
Yeah.
It's got a decent enough story and lots of physics to fuck around with.
You may not be aware, but that was my approach to all of Alyx, was that I encountered a box, and I got to a room full of grenades, and the game was like, but you only have hands, so you know that's the way of. That's like they gave me like 50 grenades in a room, but you don't actually get to keep the grenades because of the fact that you can't carry that much stuff. It's pretty much what fits in your hands. But I was like, fuck that, I'm gonna find a box. And I'm like gonna pick up a box, I'm gonna put all the stuff in the box, I'm gonna fucking carry the box with me. And they clearly had already patched this behavior out of the game, because people used to be able to use like one-handed boxes and just fill them with stuff, and they patched that out so stuff just falls through them now. But I found a big chunky two-handed box that has too much physics interactions for that to be patched out, apparently, because this one still worked. So I picked them up and it was really useful, and you get attached to the thing, so you're like, I'm gonna name you Vincent. And I had to figure out, for the rest of the game, I had to figure out every choke point, every big obstacle where clearly I can't take him past this. I had to figure out how to get him past that, and I kept going for the rest of the game with a fucking box that I named because I was getting away with it still, so let's keep doing it. There was some real like, this is it, they can't possibly get past this point, there's no way to get this through here. And then with some editing eventually we get there.
Yeah, the box was shattered a couple of times. I saw it.
That was just one of my favorite gags ever. It was like a Legion style moment of like you're watching the perspective of like a reality bending X-Man type character that like denies the bad things happening. I guess like WandaVision probably is. I haven't seen it. Like somebody like that like has to grapple with a really bad thing, and instead they just reject it by reshaping reality around them. So whenever Vincent would suddenly shatter, you just hear me go, no! Then halfway through the no would be like a perfectly cut screen moment, and it would cut to Vincent being whole, and I'm just like, everything's fine. And like I would smash cut to like 5 minutes later after I had to like fucking reload the game and get back to the exact same spot and like try to make it like match like as if you hallucinated the part where the box broke.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of. I think you did that 3 times total,
maybe or more.
Yeah, but one of them at least was very much like, what did I just see?
Oh yeah, the first time it happened, I went in an elevator, and I turn around to pick up the box, and the box is like a little stuck, and then just explodes. And like there was like a nonsensical reason for exploding, because there was like a physics glitch in itself. But then I just like tried to make it a matching cut and move on, like just like nothing had happened, and like completely not acknowledge it, but keep it all in, obviously. And that was a fun series to do for a few reasons.
Only a few.
I'm gonna be having a lot
Do you think
less
VR
fun
is the
soon.
Do you think the VR is the future of gaming?
No,
No.
no, it's just a thing.
So quick to just like, no, that's
Well,
it's
the future of gaming is a stupid phrase. So what a fucking lack of imagination, the idea that gaming is one thing. Fuck you. Like
Single player.
that
Wow.
entire line of reasoning, not you
Single
specifically,
player
obviously,
RPGs are
but I
dead.
mean like the fact that people keep posing that as a topic.
Yeah.
I had a fucking heated argument with one of my housemates in my old house about this topic, because they were so fucking at the cult. They're bowing at the foot of VR and talking about how like it makes every genre better. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna make CRPGs better. Is that what's gonna happen? CRPGs are gonna be better in VR. What, you look down at a table and have to awkwardly bend over a bunch to look at the little things happening of like, oh man, I gotta look at this isometric thing in VR. Wow, they really do look like plastic figures. They really do look not real still. Like, what is the fucking upside here? Do you want CRPGs to look like that fucking like the monster chest from Star Wars, whatever it's called, thing you have to let Chewie win?
Sarlacc pit.
No, that's a pit. Monster.
what-
There's a game they play where little hologram monsters beat each other up.
Oh, the monster chest thing.
Yeah, I almost said
Oh, yeah,
Pazak,
I've
but
seen
that's
that,
the
I
wrong
think.
game from Star Wars.
No, that's KOTOR.
Yeah,
Dijarki.
Tizarki. I don't know if that's right either. I don't know.
It's Dijark, I guess, or
People.
it's also
not
it's
the
also
way
known
to
as hollow chess,
Yeah.
a popular
does sound-
two-player game
Hollow
in which
chess.
teams of
Yeah,
holographic creatures
that's what they
battled
called
each
it in the
other.
movie. There you go.
Yeah.
We did
People
it.
have a
Reddit.
weird obsession with Pazak. There's a lot of people who are just like in love with Pazak in my experience. Is that in the movies or something?
I feel like Pazak was made up. I feel like
It was,
Pazak was
wasn't it?
made up for KOTOR, and I've never played it, but I think I think people have made it sound like it might be based on Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII, but I don't know.
And then nobody likes Gwent.
Gwent's great. What
Sorry,
the
not
fuck are you
Gwent.
talking? Everyone likes Gwent.
I'm sorry. Everybody likes Gwent. The Caravan.
Gwent was so and Gwent was so liked they literally made a standalone
made a
version
game,
of
yeah,
it, which I like.
was thinking of
I don't like
Caravan.
it as much.
I was thinking of Caravan from Fallout New Vegas, but for some reason,
Yeah,
I like Caravan.
Pazak's not
I
very.
like Gwent as well.
Pazak's not very fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Gwent was
I agree.
one of the coolest mini games ever in a video
Mm-hmm.
game. Like you could, it did have enough depth and interesting stuff going on that you could turn into a
It
real
was
thing.
great.
So they did.
And it
but
interacted
unfortunately,
well with the exploration and the world.
It had cracks. Like it wasn't like if you had just bought that copy of Gwent as a whole game, you'd quickly start realizing all the problems with like how the AI handles it and the balancing issues and so on. But it's like it was a lot more fun than like playing like Pazak. It's like, wow, I collected a 4. I can't wait to
or
use
poker.
my 4.
Or dice poker like in the first game.
Because Pazak's just
Dice-
boring. It's just blackjack with extra steps,
Yeah.
and it's not very interesting.
Mass Effect has a similar game as well, doesn't it? It's just not as widespread. It's in that
I mean, there's casinos in Mass Effect, I guess. I don't remember.
they use a similar thing.
There's
to,
no campaign spanning thing in Mass Effect that you like keep collecting
yeah.
chunks for to like help you play it or anything.
Yeah. Also because it would be really weird because you're a freaking military man.
I mean, you're up to you're important supposedly in all these other games too.
Yeah. So I am, but I don't know. If you're Geralt, you have some leeway to play some cards every once in a while.
Yeah, because he's a mercenary, and there's just like an aspect of like it does kind of color the characters a bit to like let them like just kind of have this side hobby that they can get weirdly obsessed with. And in Geralt's case, I like that in Witcher 3, you canonically play Gwent. Like not only did you like there's the usual thing where you go to like a bunch of there's the usual thing where you go to like various locations to challenge the Gwent person, because like these mini games will always have incorporation of like here's the one NPC that lets you play the game, like how in Final Fantasy 14 you play like this weird tile based battle game with random people that's basically a card game. But in Witcher 3, there are literal quests where one of the options is to play Gwent, and you can even resolve disputes by playing Gwent. Like you can do like a 10-stage quest where at the end you settle a disagreement by beating them in Gwent, and it's like a bet, and that's like one of your options. And instead of being a skill check of like what's your dexterity or whatever, it's like how strongly do you believe in your Gwent deck, buddy? That's a very different approach, and I love it.
Can you believe
Alrighty,
Cyberpunk 2070?
I gotta bounce. I got a pretty hard
it's
stop
about time to
now.
go. Yeah, just
Yeah.
send it over. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.
I gotta open
Bye-bye.
the file we used to send those around.
Can you believe they made Cyberpunk 2077 and they brought over the punching minigame, but not the Gwent minigame?
It's very frustrating that they didn't have any. Really, they didn't have any minigame, did they? That was
It's
like,
No,
impressive
as
they
far as I know.
released Cyberpunk at all.
Yeah.
yeah, that's also a thing.
Like, it just.
Has the DLC been announced yet? They
Like-
promised like DLC very early.
Like my understanding, there's also a thing like that in a right, because I had a proficiency in it on my D&D character. There's a card game in D&D in universe, and you can buy a physical copy of it too if you want to like role play it. Like you can have, I have proficient, my Thunder in the Morning has a proficiency with a specific card game, and that he's really good at playing it. Like, so you can dice roll him playing the game to settle things like the way you would with Gwent in Witcher, for example. So you could actually do plot points with that if you and the DM and everyone wanted to, and so on. And yeah, if you really wanted to, you could literally have a copy of the card game and play a game in real life to settle to find out who wins, which is really amusing. It's like some kind of like dragon cards thing or something. That's pretty funny.
It has to be
It's
dragons, otherwise.
It's thankfully not a CCG. It's like blackjack. Like it's a set deck.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be.
Given
They
your
could do it
character,
at
you might have
CCG.
also been proficient at it.
They could do a CCG, like
Oh
as
yeah,
long as
well,
you
I
only
think
had,
there is a D&D CCG.
but like if you only have like 50 cards, and your hand is like 10, you play 2. That's enough for variety. You don't need to have
Yeah.
like extra. Well, what's the famous one? Magic the Gathering, yeah, because that one has thousands of cards.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering is. It's got to be like
It's a
the
scam.
longest running
a
successful trading card game, right?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's a scam. I mean, trading card games are what they are.
They are
they're
what they
not-
are, but like
They're
from
not
somebody
secret
who
about it. It's not like
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast is like hiding the fact that
It's
like
a
every
scam
season.
in only the same way that every CCG is, which is
yeah.
kind of. They're I'm
Like, you
not,
can
I'm
just
not a
play
fan
with
of
printed
CCGs.
cards. And you have the same experience.
Well,
You just
that's the
print the cards
thing
out.
is like whenever these come up as a topic, I'm like, I would love to play Magic. Let's play the Duel of the Planeswalker Xbox game. That's $10 and that's it. Like, because I do
You
not
have all the cards
I
in
do
there?
not- I don't. You have decks at least, and you can play them against each other. Because I don't like I don't like the pay to win aspect of like buying all these booster packs, like Overwatch loot crates, except they're full of things that make you better at the game and you spend money on them. And I also don't love the deck building because it's like this.
Not necessarily
can
though,
be a-
because
it
you
can be
could
an-
get a pack that has cards you already have, which means you don't get anything from the pack.
Oh
you
yeah,
just
no,
wasted
it's
your
it's
money.
just it's pay to
Like,
win, but pay to win
Yeah.
in a way that obfuscates your rewards, which encourages you to spend more money for increasingly diminished rewards.
Yeah, it's just loot boxes.
So it's just a pay to win that's like it ruins the game for the people that aren't investing all the money, but also makes the game, but also like it also like preys on the people that actually are putting money into it too, by increasingly like getting them accustomed to spending money on it over and over again, basically habitually at some point. And like, yeah, you go to like drafts is like an event that people do. Like they throw those events to make a lot of money essentially, because you all put money in the pool and they just open up a whole bunch of decks and like a whole bunch of booster packs, all mix them into one pile basically, and then you get to like draft your deck via sort of like card selecting process where you take turns drafting cards, and then whoever wins gets to actually keep the cards or something like that. Like there's like a system of who actually gets to keep the winnings. So it's like pay to win crossed with gambling, crossed with other stuff, but it is like also admittedly
multi-level marketing.
Yeah, but it's also admittedly coupled with an interesting and kind of exciting idea of like a competition event that could be memorable and worthwhile in its own right. So it's like it's kind of a mixed bag of different things. Like, because yeah, like at the core of it all is a game that I think is fun, but boy, do I not want to go down that well.
I think the fact that it's not like a tailored experience, it's so okay, I have a deck, you have a deck, let's fight. It's not like the mechanics are it's not like in a computer game where the mechanics are introduced to you. You learn this type of terrain, what this building does, but where you have an experience as you learn the game. It makes it so that it's inevitably about the meta, and it's inevitably about knowing what the latest strategies are and what it works with the current decks. Because if you're playing with new decks, it's different rules and whatnot. So the game is less about you figuring it yourself out by yourself and more about looking it up online and just being like, oh, these two cards work really well, and if I play them together or something, you know what I mean? It's like it's the same problem with Stoneheart or Stone Shard, which the one from
yeah,
Hearthstone,
that was what killed Hearthstone for me. Is I had a period where I was like, I don't know, Hearthstone seems like it might be kind of fun. I'm kind of excited I kind of want to play it. Like it's visually, it's really cool looking, and like it's got this snappy interface and the cool card effects. Like I had played some of the beta, so I knew how it worked on a basic level, and it's like it's an enjoyable loop. And then at one point I was sitting with Marty and one of our housemates at like Habit Burger or something, and they were complaining about face hunters, which was some kind of meta like that existed at some point at the time. Like they're complaining about like the current meta essentially, and I was hearing them complain about the meta was just like, I want to play this entire game. Like
that's the game. The meta is the game.
I don't enjoy that idea at all. Like trying to like keep up on what the meta is and so on. It's like
it
fucking
absolutely
your
is the game.
Overwatch keeps trying to tell me what the meta heroes are, and I'm like, okay,
exactly.
I'm still just gonna keep picking over Symmetra. Oh, she's the worst character in literally the entire game. Still picking Symmetra. Like, I want to play the game that's there instead of the game that people made out of it sometimes, and that's the bummer about online games like that. Yeah,
in a team game it's different because you all make up, like it's so much more complex. When it's just 1 versus 1, the meta is everything.
Like I have a physical copy of Hearthstone. I mean, not Hearthstone. Sorry, Gwent.
Oh, Gwent. I remember
the collector's editions of the 2 DLCs. Each game with vouchers that let you buy the limited supply of of Gwent. It was 2 boxes that collectively gave two decks. There was 2 decks each, so now I have all 4 decks, except they added Skellige later. So like the physical edition has that, like all the cards, and it's like there's no TCG. It's just you buy Gwent and you have Gwent. But of course now
and it's also unpatched.
Yeah,
which
but now,
means it's
now
the
Gwent
one meta.
is a TCG, and it's like Hearthstone now, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
it's kind of nice the idea that you could just buy an entire, like even if it's a deck builder, technically the idea that you could buy the entire deck builder is really appealing, and just like I have the game, the end.
There are some games like that. I remember playing Spell.
Oh yeah,
it's not Spellforge. I can look it up very quickly. Spellweaver, yeah. Spellweaver, I think there might be DLCs.
Spellweaver Soul Stealer. Sorry.
Is that from Warhammer?
That's probably some Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I don't even know.
Oh.
But
Spellweaver
was what is it?
What?
Something Soul Stealer.
Ironweaver Soul Stealer.
Ironweaver Soul Stealer in Inuyasha. People yelling out their moves when they attack.
Yeah, Spellweaver is like is an indie Magic the Gathering sort of game. It's really cool. It's not like it's super janky or anything. It just plays normally. It's just a game, and I think you get all the cards. I had fun for a little. Played like for 5 hours.
I don't. Yeah, I think I got into Magic once, and then after like I only had 2 people to play with for a year, it was like, okay, I don't think I'll ever do this again. It's kind of
Oh,
like
right,
stupid.
yeah. I remember when you had your period of Magic.
Yeah. I still have my decks. I still have my cards. They just sit there in a box. But like,
we still need to do a video honoring the fact that somebody sent us Magic decks.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Someone did send us Magic decks too.
Yeah, I still have them sitting here. I think they're unopened. They're somewhere on my bookshelf. I think it was a blue deck and a blue black deck or something, or I don't know the elements for sure.
Yeah, but
one of them might just have an elemental advantage and just win or whatever.
Card games are like the baby's first loot box. It's the intro into the concept of paying money for not getting what you want, which is what a weird system to teach anybody. Yeah, it's funny because like as a kid, obviously
people still get mad to this day that I don't open my loot boxes in Overwatch, and it's like, why are you defending this system? Why are you so militant about it that you're offended someone else isn't engaging with it? It's like it's literally because you summarized it so well as the fact that like it's literally an entire system about tricking you into paying for stuff and then not getting what you want, and like. Yeah, and it's just and it's just about a bunch of steps of trying to condition you to do that more and more and getting used to it until you don't think about it anymore. And like that's deeply frustrating.
Especially multiplayer games.
Like when every now and then I'll be like, oh, is there a figure of this character I like in Monster Hunter? I kind of want a little figure of this guy or that guy and so on. It's like you know what you get? You find fucking gotcha collections or whatever where it's like you get a mystery box of Monster Hunter monsters. It's like, no, I just want the fucking monster. What the fuck, Japan? Jesus.
Well, that's a huge. So there's like it's funny too because there's some times where that's fun and interesting. Like they have little gotcha machines where you put the quarter and you turn it, you get a little figurine.
Capsule machines like we have here.
Yeah, and sometimes they're fun. Sometimes they're completely great when you're like, I don't really give a shit which one I get. They all look amazingly stupid. I want one of those stupid things. Like I have 2 Kabuki owls. And all of them look ridiculous. I didn't care which one I got. They're all dumb looking. But like, sure, here's $1. Take my give me a Kabuki app.
For me, it's like I don't like Rathlos. He's a boring dragon. I want Tobokadachi.
Like,
give me Tobokadachi, and I don't want that's a fucking Diablos. That's just you're creating plastic waste.
the moment it becomes like actually important. Like I've seen some of the capsules where it's like, oh, you could build a whole like monorail system if you get all the. It's like I'm not gonna spend $20 trying to get a damn like 4-piece set. This is stupid. Just sell me the 4-piece set.
It's you're tricking people into buying things. You're tricking people into buying things, then not getting what they want, like you said, which is just a bizarre thing for people to get used to. Is the idea of like, oh, I want that one. It's like, well, you got this one. It's like, but I paid you. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But also, it's like the level of waste it creates because the implication is like you're just gonna in the process of trying to get the one you want or getting the full set if that's what you're into, you're just like either you're gonna not get the one you want and then you might just throw it away, or you're gonna like want to get the full set and you keep getting dupes in the process of trying to get the full set, and that also just creates waste where it's like you're either going to like obsessively find people to trade these with or something, or you're just gonna like throw it away. And it's like you're like nothing creates waste like selling things to people that when and then they're just like, oh, I don't want that, but it's mine now. Great. And like when I get a receipt.
And that's why they often target this shit to children, is because everyone on the playground is supposed to be interacting with it. Like that's the gimmick. That's the idea, is that you like MLM other children into this pyramid scheme because you're like, I have like 15 Pokemon cards. If you get some, we can play a game together. And like, no, sir, how about we just play a game together that doesn't involve a huge money investment like poker? I can just buy a pack of cards and we're set to go. If you want thrill in it, I'll put some money down. But like, I don't need to buy 15 packs of fucking whatever the current like expansion is of Magic the Gathering, and then be told in like 6 months that I can't use those cards. How many
monsters there are in Monster Hunter as a series, and how many separate toys there are in that fucking randomization. And it's like, no, man, like there's depending on how I'm feeling moment to moment, there's like 1 to 4 total that I might want out of like 50, 100, 200. Like I don't even know. It's like it's pretty much like in descending order. It's pretty much like Tobakadachi, Nargacuga, Paolumu, and Zinogre, maybe. And those last 2 are already tenuous. And it's like, well, here's even more that are none of those. It's like I'm not buying this. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird. I again, I get it in some aspects. I don't think it's
fucking
okay
Nintendo
or good,
being
but...
like, surprise, you got Marth, not Banjo Kazooie. Wrong.
I mean,
enjoy your wrong amiibo.
Yeah, there is. That's a thing, though. There is definitely like amiibo grab bags or whatever.
I hate
Shit,
it.
dude! I went into GameStop the other day to buy a game.
Oh
for
yeah,
some reason.
used game grab bags.
Yeah, there's a used game grab bag. I was like, what the fuck? Did you just create a fake loot box of garbage? Because I don't want anything you're possibly gonna give me in this loot box.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
like,
a cursed concept. It's
yeah,
like,
I was like, what the fuck?
it's almost like a fucking like YouTube. It's almost designed for like YouTube channels that want to have like a gimmick series, like Brian's like dollar store gaming series he does. It's like what came in the grab bag, and you do like you like cover the night. It's like a fucking like PlayStation demo disc just for you. Like what came? Because I went to there's like a Sacramento secondhand store for games that has a really impressive collection. And
You're talking about is it like a computer store in Fair Oaks?
It's like a really brightly colored place that's like all red and yellow or red and orange.
You're talking about the one that's in a garage? Like it's a big old open space?
No, it's just a store. Area? It's just a store shaped store.
I just got done going to all of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the size of a GameStop or something, and it have a really shitty sidewalk. So like when you turn into their parking lot, it's a tiny parking lot, and the ramp is like the ramp from the street to the sidewalk to their parking lot and so on is like distressing and scrapey and worrying, and you're like, I don't know. But the but on the inside, the store is really nice and has a really extensive selection. And so when I was there like a year and a half ago or something, I got like. I probably spent like $200 or $300 on just stuff that I'm like, I don't know when I'll see this stuff again, and because that's what I do. Because like I don't know, maybe we'll do a series one day on Time Splitters 2 or something like that, like that kind of those kinds of picks. And then there's always a couple of like, oh, I literally have never heard of this game before, and the cover catches my attention, and I'll forget about it if I walk away as a concept. So let's just find out one day. And yeah, they had an entire wall lined in fucking grab bags, and I was like, I don't like the fact I just learned about this concept. Like it's a bag of just random video games, and they're bad because like you go to
all bad. Yeah,
you go to any other high traffic secondhand store like all the Dimple Records places in Sacramento, and like if you have to find like the one good one in the entire chain that actually has a good number of video games, because all of the other Dimple Records will just have, you get to the video game section and like you get to like the Nintendo 64 shelf, and it's like, oh, the entire shelf is like 20 cartridges, which is already a low number. Then you realize they're all 3 sports.
Yeah, they're all like Madden, NHL, and NBA, and you're like, God fucking damn you people.
It's just sports games and the same ones repeating, and you're like, oh, that's the entire selection. Not like,
oh my God, yeah.
There's no like Insect Armageddon or any surprises. It's just, oh, okay.
It's funny too when you look at like Nintendo used games. Like you look at a Wii or a Wii U, and you're like, oh, these are just, I mean, they're not games I want to play, but at least they're not sport games. And then you look at the PlayStation section, and it's like, why is it just full of Madden? What the fuck? Do you guys not like Madden? Everyone buys it every year. Why don't you just keep your fucking copy of Madden? Like,
yeah. And like you look at those grab bags, and my first reaction to them is like, but what if I want the games that are inside those? Like, but I can't buy them because I can't see them out in the shelves. And then my next thought was like, oh, right. The only games they would put in there are all the games that no one cares about, or they have so many of them already out here on the shelf that they don't know where to put all the overflow. It's like fucking Game Grumps and Glover, where they had like they're like where like every single like grab bag of games they were sending out to people had another copy of Glover because they had like 100 copies of Glover for some reason.
Wow.
And like I imagine that Glover is a comparatively good result compared to what those grab bags would give me.
I have
Womp
no
womp.
experience of this.
Secondhand
I,
game
Good.
stores.
Yeah, it's just it's very, like I lived about 20 kilometers away. I still live about 20 kilometers away from the place where they used to have games because used game stores because they don't anymore. And my parents just would never take me there. It was just So I got the new ones, and once every 6 months if I got lucky, for my Sega Saturn. Yes. And basically I borrowed the rest because that's how you play games.
Let's see. We should probably get one of these questions.
Now that Bird ran away, you have questions?
Well, he
We have
left.
time?
No.
Jesus, it's already like 2:20.
It is kind of 2:20.
It's 120 for me.
2 hours and 20 minutes into the recording.
Oh yeah. It is already late, but we might want to like just do one of
Let's do
these
it.
because we didn't get to
To
one
remind
again.
people that we answer questions, please send questions.
And then we'll be out of questions practically. So Alan Bettendorf asks, so all of you have had channels that have come a really long way since their inception years ago. Looking back, if you go back in time and do anything differently, what would you do differently when making and growing your channel besides the low-hanging fruit of making yourself less cringe?
That's not low hanging at all. That's super high hanging.
Well, it's
How
just
do I
the
even do
go-to.
that?
It's the go-to of answer of like, I wish I wasn't an idiot in 2012. I wish I didn't hate listening to any videos then from me. Please.
Wait, so
Just what would you do differently? Like growing your channel and so on.
I would just watch like 15 videos on audio balancing before I made exported a single fucking video. Just seriously, like you can take 5, maybe 10 minutes at most, and you'll learn so much shit about audio balancing that saves you in the long run compared to just like, all right, I recorded my audio, put it on top of video, and export. Like, fuck, dude.
Unoriginal.
Andrew, don't do that. I'm gonna karate chop your throat.
Games.
I hate that, man. Every time I listen to my old content, I'm like, there was like funny moments in here, and I go watch them, like, it's not worth it. The funny moment's not gonna work.
Sometimes people are like, what's up with the compressor and stuff like that, and part of it is just like a blanket, like a trying to get past the fact that like our audio was so bad for a while at the beginning.
Well, our mics were also really bad.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of steps that need to be optimized. Of like the hardware needed to be better, but also it needed to be set to better. Like there's a whole aspect of like we're trying to record in a way so that you don't clip in the recording itself. So you have to make sure that like that is balanced correctly, but then you also balance it well against the game. And there's also video quality. Like we had some strange renders early on, and also for a very long time just like mistakes. Like I go back in time and just slap the hand of past me and be like, you need to right click on the clip and disable resampling in Sony Vegas, because we have so many videos that have resampling turned on, which just makes this weird blurry after image happen whenever anything moves. And sometimes I catch other channels doing that and I'm like, oh, they're not going to read the comments, but I could tell them how to fix that, and it's like one click. I've seen Game Grumps videos of that where like their Ashes of Ariandel video, I could clearly tell that they either switched to a new editing software or had new editors because suddenly resampling was on, and I'm like, oh no, I know exactly how to get rid of this, and so on. Thankfully, it's finally a feature, and it's been that way a while now, where you can set it on a project level, and so you don't have to sit there and manually turn it off on every clip. But I used to have to like import all my videos, shift click them to select all of them, and then like right click on it and disable resampling, and I had to remember that every time. And every now and then you'd put a video, you'd render a video, and then you'd check it in the morning after all the renders, and you're like, fuck, it's blurry because I did this. I gotta start over on rendering.
Yeah, My audio issues are basically the same, and I still don't have everything nailed down. It's all a process, but I think that for me, the one thing I wish I could have told myself earlier, and also right now because I haven't figured it out, is try to focus on how to integrate your Patreon page with your Let's Play channel, basically, because that is fundamental. And I have not figured that out. I don't know how to do it properly in a way that satisfies me as well as my patrons.
Just steal my format.
I tried
It is-
to.
I mean, it is a good
Nobody
format.
wanted to choose a game.
Oh,
I wanted to because I'm pretty sure. It's like because it's a recurring thing. People see, oh, it's the Patreon thing. I want him to play this. But the problem is, I got one vote, and then I couldn't have another because
I mean, technically, Keith's system is just a byproduct of loot boxes. The idea that people are paying
Loot
money
boxes.
to support him, and they might get what they want.
I
But
was
it's not a guarantee.
I mean-
But technically, that they get the product
No,
they
they-
want, which is you playing a video game at the end of the day.
Yeah, they
But
get what they paid for, which is a vote.
Yeah, it's
A
a
vote,
it's
yeah,
a
exactly.
non-unethical version. But like at the end of the day, if your goal is to get to pay money so you can get the game you want played, you're not going to get that.
Oh
But
yeah,
no,
no.
if you're
you get a couple, you get a
if your
couple
goal,
frustrated, impatient people every now and then that fix it on that. It's like no, it's supposed to be a thing that supports the channel. And
yeah, the idea is that
makes this
the
my
product you
job.
want is you playing a game. Like
and then
no
you
matter
also
what
get
game
to be
it
in the
is,
credits
that's what you
and
want.
part of a selection process.
That's that's just the standard flair though. Like the driving factor. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people want their name in the credits, but like I always feel like the driving factor should be the action. Like what do you specifically get for Patreon? What change do you get to make as a financial contributor to this product?
And I make the vote this big theatrical thing that's like it's an event
Yeah.
and there's a mystery of like, oh, what won, and there's like a premiere and everyone like theorizes about it and wondering what's going to happen, and they're anticipating.
Yeah,
like,
that's
especially since I have a Discord, I can watch people like anticipating it and like oh man, like, I think this is going to win and so on, and you're like and you like
Yeah.
you already know for
it's Zelda
days
again.
sometimes. That is the disappointing thing, is that if you let the vote happen, it's like the low hanging fruit always happens, because that's what voting does. But the alternatives are all worse. Like, wow, everyone nominated a game, and then just it's a fucking raffle. And it's like picking something at random. Like we all complain that Zelda wins, but see what happens when the fucking like Lolly
I don't
Girl
complain that Zelda
JRPG that in last place wins because we randomized it this time. But also, I think
I
raffles
don't
aren't
complain.
allowed on Patreon.
Oh,
I think
All right,
raffles are against Patreon's service. The
It
idea
might
that
be
you like,
considered gambling.
yeah, or something like
I don't
that.
think you're allowed to do like online gambling.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you probably have to verify people's
Yeah.
ages and shit, and like
Yeah, you have to like
some
register.
As long
country,
as-
it's like
yeah.
illegal in some countries or illegal for certain ages and so on.
if you're paying
Yeah.
for participation, then it can't be a raffle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
and
that's
that's
why-
but yeah, that's why I was saying it's like an ethical loot box, because you're not
I thought
that's
about
why I
that
like
for
making
I
people
thought about
aren't gambling.
I talked about the idea of like, what if that was the April Fool's joke this year, is that I picked a random Patreon game this time, and then just had to do a series on it, no matter what it was. But the one I was like, and just anticipating like, what if this is like funny for like 5 minutes and then just miserable for 3 months? But also then I had the thought of like, I think that's also against the terms of service of Patreon. I'm like, never mind this idea. Never went.
You know what
forward
you
with
should
that.
do? You should get a list of all the crappy, like really low budget crappy keys that you get for free that you didn't ask for of garbage games,
Yeah.
and tell Patreon to, and like basically take the amount of patrons you have and add that to like a spinning thing, like how many times
that's
it will
still a
spin a
raffle.
wheel. No,
That's
it's
still
not
a
a raffle, because they're not paying for that. They're
They
not
paid
paying
for
to,
access to that.
No, they don't get anything for that.
For example, if I give
We'll
keys away
let
on
him
Twitch,
finish saying it, because you're cutting him off before
Oh,
you
yeah,
actually
yeah.
explain the idea.
Sorry.
And
you're
so
right.
the idea is you just put all the games into a list, and you take whatever the number is of patrons you have, and just spin the wheel that many times. Whatever game it lands on, that's a game you play. But that's not. But because it's
you always
not,
get a game.
Yeah, you always get a game, and it's not. And the Patreon aren't paying to have that game. It's just it's a one-off thing you've done. Like just,
I don't think it works like that. I remember.
I don't understand the correlation. It sounds like you're just spinning.
correlation is-
It sounds like you're just spinning a wheel of the list of games. So what does that have to do with the patrons?
Just to add fun to it. I don't know, to say like, hey, look,
No.
we've got, I've reached. It's like you could use as a milestone. Like, hey, we reached 200 patrons, so now I'm gonna put a bunch of games on a list and spin it 200 times and see where it lands. Like, that's
Oh, so,
about
like,
I
the
think the
idea was,
closest you
like,
could get.
It's like a milestone. So you okay?
Yeah, like the idea is that you could use
It
you could use
wasn't
Patreon
clear, so
for.
it sounded
Yeah,
like
sorry.
somehow the winner was gonna pick it or something, which is why Colonel was like, "Is this a raffle?"
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah, no,
it was really
sorry.
unclear what the patrons
Yeah.
had to do with anything.
I
You
was
went
trying to
wow,
say like
I
you
have
could
200 Patreon supporters, so we're going to play a random one of 200 games, huh?
yeah
Or I'm
like,
going to force myself to play Desert Bus for 200 minutes.
Yeah, like something like that, where like that's I feel like that's the closest you can get to doing a raffle. Is you have to make it so the people involved have nothing to do with
Yeah.
it except for existing, which isn't like how like that's not how gambling works.
I've done,
Yeah,
I've
it's
done
not a
I've
raffle.
done two different
Yeah.
versions of that, which that I used to have a tier where the people in that tier could pick a Let's Try from the mega list every month.
Yeah,
And then I also had a thing where it was less of an event, but there was actually multiple episodes of my Let's Try series where I just copy pasted the list into one of those randomized like roulette wheels websites and just rolled it, and they're like, I guess that's this episode. Fuck, what game is that? Let's install it. Turns out
Yeah,
it's not
Let's
great.
Tries
Turns out curating your Let's Tries a little better is better
yeah.
than playing random shit, because so much of the list is just stuff that never looked good, even for a moment.
Let's tries for me are very not resource intensive, basically, for my head. Just it takes a lot out of me to start a new game.
It's a
And be like, let's do this.
it's a lot.
I think-
I'm
I think
really,
another thing.
I do not like doing Let's Tries of, for example, like strategy games and like RTSs, because it's like hey, you want to read tutorials for an hour and then just kind of end the episode being like, sorry, we still haven't even finished the tutorial and I don't really understand anything, and this isn't really like an effective Let's Try, but I can't just play this game
For a lot of
3
people,
hours.
that's what they want. A lot of people just watch the first video and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not for your audience. It isn't the same thing. Who are you making the Let's Tries for? That's the thing.
There's a lot of games that reject the format.
Yeah. I think it's changing just because it's just, modern gaming is so influenced by
Yeah.
us, Let's Players and streamers. But I don't know. I think there's some genres that will never get to that first half an hour engagement style.
Yeah.
Basically.
For me, on the question of whether I do something differently, honestly, I feel like I learned my lesson partly from sad games, and as a result, I kind of glommed onto what to do pretty quickly once I had my channel, which was, and I told the story to a few different people at this point, but just like I started off with like, this is the weird one. My first series is Outlast, and that's like a Hail Mary. It was literally just because I tried playing Outlast with Andrew, and he was being a dick. Like
I wasn't being a dick. The game was just poorly
so
made.
fucking insufferable, where he just wanted to hate the game and was complaining about literally every second of it while we were like in the first 5 minutes of the opening. While it was just like building Mystique, and I'm like, I can't take this. We're not doing a series on this game. The other one was Shadows of the Damned, where I'm just like, no, I actually think this is neat, and you're just kind of annoying the fuck out of me. So we just didn't upload any Shadows of the Damned. But like, I just went home and started doing Outlast, because it was at the same time that Andrew was moving. He was like going to be moving to Sacramento soon, and so like you're at that milestone of like, it's quaint now, but at the time it's like, wow, I've been doing this for 2 whole years. Do I really want to potentially stop doing this forever since Andrew's moving or so on? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I should just like upload my own Let's Plays or whatever. And then because of the specific difficulties with that game, I was like, I'm going to do a series on Outlast and so on. and so like that was the first thing on the channel, but that was like whatever. But while I was playing Outlast, I was playing Demon's Souls in my free time, and I was in the Tower of Latria, and I'm like, this game's actually really fucking cool. I should probably just start over and do a series on this game instead of playing it off camera. And so I went and started covering Demon's Souls, and that did well. So I started playing Dark Souls, and that did pretty well. And Dark Souls 2 came out, and like that was new when I was playing it. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, these are big numbers. Like that was back when like every time I did if I did certain things, I could just watch the views graph of the channel just like hit a new shelf of like with the noise floor. Like you would see it like zigzagging, but then it would suddenly go vroom, and be like, now it's zigzagging up there, and watch it climb. And for the first like 2 years of my channel, I could watch specific things and like see that specific games and their premieres and so on very clearly just raised the noise floor of my whole channel over and over again. And so like I just followed the trend. So like I played Dark Souls 2, and then when Dark Souls 2 was over, I played Dark Souls 2 again, I think, in New Game Plus. Then I went back and played the expansion for Dark Souls 1 because I had to stop it halfway through to do Dark Souls 2 as it came out. And then I was like, okay, well, how do I follow up on this? And it's like, okay, we'll play like anything. It wasn't really the term yet, but basically I was hunting for Souls-likes. But Souls-likes weren't so much a thing yet either. So I played Bound by Flame because it was like it had lock-on circle strafing and a stamina meter, and it's like I can sell people on this maybe a little bit. And so I just kind of like I was actively pursuing my existing audience essentially and being like, okay, they liked this stuff, let's try to play stuff like that and kind of build from there. And so you kind of like have and like over time you kind of have a growing wheelhouse where you expand a bit, because it was like I played like eventually I was like, it was just like, okay, RPGs of a certain flavor kind of fit what I think would do it, but also sometimes you're just curious and you play things for yourself. And I tried Legend of Grimrock, and people really liked that, and it's like, okay, that's interesting. People didn't just like this game itself, but also the part where like I'm secret hunting and like solving puzzles, and like I'm like, maybe I should play a puzzle game. And like Talos Principle was the new one at the time that was being received well, so I played Talos Principle, and then The Witness. And then suddenly it's like, okay, I'm the guy that does RPGs, but I'm also the guy that plays like puzzle games. And like you just kind of realize like you have an audience for certain things, and you chase that specific thing. Sad Games for the first 2 years was just whatever the fuck. It was basically random. It was whatever we felt like. We would play the fucking the last or the first Templar for like 2 hours and upload that, and then never play it again, and then be like, here's a little Deadly Premonition, and here's some Tokyo Jungle, and here's some Mario, and just whatever we felt like. And like at the end of the 2 years, we still were putting up videos that had like would get like 20 views or something. I think like there was no building to it really. And so like just learning to like pursue what works and work with that, and then, you know, let yourself have more freedom once you actually hit a comfortable spot like I have. Like I'm way more free now to do what I want while still maintaining an audience, because I know that it'll collectively do well enough, but I still have a formula back there. Like there's still like a driving force. Like I have time slots built around the idea of like, that's the RPG time slot, that's the puzzle game time slot. Like I want to keep certain things around. And like obviously, like if a new From Software game comes out, especially if it's a Souls like it's just gonna get covered, period. Like that kind of stuff. Like because you just realize like certain things are gonna work for you, and you kind of like juggle those ideas a bit. So basically, we would have had to turn Sad Games into a furry channel, because the literal only thing that ever did well the whole time we played Sad Games, there was 2 avenues we could do: character creator videos, because those did great for some reason.
No,
we had all of our most popular videos were
God.
fucking character creator videos, and then fucking Tokyo Jungle. We played the strangest fucking animal game, Japanese roguelike on PS3. That was a digital only game, which was one of the games that was threatening to vanish forever when they were talking about shutting down PSN. It's like it's like a really iconic part of our history. But you just play as animals and you go fight things and so on, and it's like it did so well. And like there was the Northern Lion thing of like, if we played anything else, none of the views transferred. They only wanted to watch Tokyo Jungle, so you just had to keep playing Tokyo Jungle. And I think Andrew got a little like burned by the stove a little bit, because he was like, when he started doing solo stuff on the channel years later, he realized that the thing that would do well is if he played visual novels. He played a visual novel like we didn't exactly have a momentum, so we didn't really have an existing audience that would really engage very much. So he was kind of starting over from scratch to an extent, but not as much as it would be if you literally started from scratch. That's why I urged him to like use the sad games instead of making a new channel. It's like, no, there's at least someone will watch your videos, as opposed to trying to do like starting a Twitch account and be like, can I get 2 viewers, please? And like, how do I start? Because like once you have it, you have it, even if it's only a little bit. It's like something. And
once the momentum's there.
You played like High School Romance? Was that the one? You
I played
you played some
Romance.
random shitty VN that I think is forgotten at this point by time, but like it had like buzz for a bit, and you struck lightning. You struck right when the opportunity was, and as often goes for a small channel, you want to strike like something that has like, it'll have some kind of attention to it, but also there's not enough competition to just drown you out immediately, like the fucking like the Big 10 YouTubers or whatever aren't covering it, for example. And so you find like a niche. And then it was like, then Andrew fell into the trap of like, okay, well now I got to play visual novels because that was the thing that did well. And so you'd play like Honey Pop and Sakura stuff and other ones, and then
some didn't do well, and then
the thing he did was he merged the two, the only audience old sad games had crossed with the only audience that new sad games had, and he played Nekojishi, the furry cat dating simulator gay daddies game, and that's one of his top videos now on the channel, besides all the Tokyo Jungle stuff and the character creator videos. It's like, it works. There's just certain things that do well. You kind of, it's like when you're starting a channel off, every game you play is like a landmine of some where like, it's like, I hope you love it, because every single one of them could accidentally be the thing that becomes the entire reason you have an audience. And that becomes like if you're smart, the basis of all of your future decisions for a while, just to like get any momentum and get people to stick around. Because if you play one thing that people like, and then you immediately change gears and never go back, then you'll probably just lose that entire audience, and you'll be right back to where you started. But yeah, Andrew's got a fucking like rock and a hard place thing going on, where his 2 choices are things he doesn't want. It's like,
it was such a
like furry games, or do I play visual novels, or both?
Dude, that was like the hardest thing, is that the person that I'm dating, they were like, okay, you're not a furry, right? And I was like, no, I'm not a furry. And they're like, okay, I just asked because like your YouTube channel has a lot of views on furry stuff. I was like, no, I don't. I'm not interested in furry content.
So she looked at the most viewed videos.
Well, yeah, because that's the smart thing. You want to like research a person. I was being honest. Like, here's my channel and stuff. I just don't.
It's funny because like I use Keymailer and some other things that are like aggregates for distributing keys to content creators and so on. And like, I know for a fact, just from browsing the news section, there's so many fucking visual novels for furries.
So many.
You could make so much money.
I keep looking at it, and I'm like, I still haven't even beaten Nekojishi. I only did one route. There's still like 2 more catboys I gotta fuck.
There's even more on itch.io. It's so much.
It's crazy, but I never will.
Everywhere.
I hate them. I hate it so much.
There's so much. Like I was, someone posted an article on someone posted an article in my chat on the Discord. Oh, there, I finally scrolled up to it. It was someone posted an article from Kotaku that says Apple tries really hard to get Epic to admit there's porn on its store. And the picture, like immediately I recognized, like, oh, this picture is from itch.io. That's the itch.io store page. But like front and center in the preview image of the article is it's like this giant, like jacked German Shepherd dude, and the name of the game is Horny Chronicles. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. All right. It's just, there's always another one. It's like, go get your 1 million views, bro. That stuff that was playing with fire though, like because you got your account suspended for playing the horny anime girl games. I
almost lost my account because of it.
Oh yeah, like there was a peeing section or something in one of the anime girl games, and it almost got his entire account taken down.
Oof.
Because you probably didn't censor it sufficiently or enough, but also like
no,
people
I
report
censored
shit
it. The game
too.
censored it for me too, and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's dangerous. playing those kind of. That's why I got to make the Pornhub account. Wow, back to square one. We're back where this where the beginning of this podcast was.
No, wait, we didn't start with the Pornhub, did we?
No, but it was the first hour. We're in hour 3 now, baby. Kudos to people that sit through this stuff. I remember Giant Bomb uploading 3-hour podcasts, and I was like, I like these guys, but I don't have time for that.
Double speed is a miracle.
Then half the podcasts I make are that long.
Double speed is such a miracle. I use it for a lot of things.
That's my universal advice though. Like that's the like Brian asked me during a stream, for example. And I think Durf also asked me at some point. Like I've had a few different people try to like ask advice because I'm like the local lightning rod of like the person that has like this momentum, and they're like, how the fuck that happened, do? And the answer is I don't know. I don't know how to start a YouTube channel and make it start getting any numbers. All I know is that the moment any numbers happen, that's your world now. Like you just fixate on the thing that did numbers and be like, okay, does it have sequels or does it have spin-offs? Are there like people like my Harvest Moon videos, let's play Stardew Valley, or people like my Sonic videos, let's play that one Sonic fan game that was, what was it called? Freedom Planet. You go play Freedom Planet when you run out of Sonic games. Like you just like whatever thing is doing well, you keep going. And there's a reason why like the Game Grumps that noticeably they constantly comment on like they canceled this or that playthrough because of views or whatever. Like they're very obviously playing every Sonic game and every Zelda game because those are the things that did numbers, and that's how you keep building. So you just kind of hold on to that. Brian is in a tough place where he's trying to make his own content style entirely. He's got like a Let's Try series that's kind of like the core of his entire channel, but he also has like these comedy videos that are like clickbait where it's like top 10 things you didn't know about this game, and it's all like false. Like he's making things up. So like it's hard to recommend when somebody doesn't just actually have a Let's Play channel, because that's the most direct thing I can recommend. But Durf is definitely like, no, he's the scrap mechanic guy. But that's too narrow. That's a little worrying. You don't want to be a guy that just does scrap mechanic, because then you're like the people that used to do just like Wings of Redemption, like people that just did Call of Duty, or you end up as one of the many people that just did Minecraft. And then it's like, if that one game loses popularity, then you're like, where do I go? So like you definitely want a wider net than that, but you definitely want a narrower net than people usually have, where they just play random stuff and then like, why did people watch that but nothing else? It's like, yeah, it's like the algorithm tries to serve videos to people that it thinks want them, and so you have to try really hard to pick stuff that's related to the stuff that did well, at least until you do well enough that there's just like a wide enough audience that everything does well enough, and then you get to be me and just stop caring.
Even if you go for a wider reach, you're also missing out a lot on
like if I was hyper vigilant, I probably could have grown better and faster, but it would just suck.
The grind becomes a large part of the process.
Like it's nice to do what you want to.
Yeah.
Like you got your clear theming of being an RPG channel.
Even I suffer with the reach, sort of, or with a span of things, because on the one hand, I have a lot of trouble finding new games to play because there's just not enough RPGs even enough games that
counts.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the
more you exhaust your well of available CRPGs, the more you're like, okay, is it better to reach outside of the CRPG umbrella, or do I play this really obscure itch.io game that nobody knows about just to keep the
answer is
going?
Neither of those is better. The answer is you're fucked.
It's not great.
Yeah. Well, I have the good thing about RPGs though is that because they're so very replayable, even though they're not all necessarily different on a replay playthrough, but
you do not have exceptions.
What?
I said, actually, that might be the weirdest thing you did. Yeah, I was sorting your channel by most popular, and not very encouragingly, the first 12 videos on your most popular tab are all top-down CRPGs. So it's like there's no wiggle room. But then starting on the third row is Sunless Skies and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. I'm like, okay, those are both something kind. I don't think Sunless Skies is quite a CRPG. It's kind of something different and weird, but I haven't quite played it. But like that's like some kind of management simulator crossed with like
but it's got a lot of
so
storytelling.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of
Like that's you introducing wiggle room a bit, and then you have a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines and Darkest Dungeon. It's like, okay, those aren't just top down CRPGs at least. It's like those are those are emblematic of like the kind of like branching you could do a bit. But it is like
they're
narrow
still very
branching.
much within a style. And when I find a new game that's like within that style, I'm like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
And in fact, I just found one that's going to release this week, and I'm very much looking forward to playing it. And it's like, those moments are everything. And if they happened once per month, it would be amazing, and my channel would flourish. But unfortunately, they don't.
Yeah, you never know what's going to cause them. In fact, I don't think I've had a view spike in like years.
Mine was Honey Pop.
Yeah,
or
Honey Pop
2.
2, right? You had a recent occurrence. I think if I look at my viewership, I'll do it right now. Fuck, I don't even know the new analytics page very well though, which is not great.
It's the bad analytics.
See all views. God, I actually don't know how to just look at my.
It's really complicated.
Fuck. There used to just be a clear tab that was like, look at I would always just look at my month's views, and it would just like be a single line that was like, here's the views you've had collectively this month, and it'd be broken down by day. And then I would just zoom out and you could see like the progression of the channel. I used to have it memorized where it was like, oh my God, and that's that video, and that's that video. And I would like, no, I have to click. I think I have to click. Yeah, there's a total button. Let's see.
But now we have 7 or 8 years of no, we have more. How
like
many years?
I used to have each spike memorized. I think I might have an imager. I think I have an imager like picture once upon a time like that like chronicled it essentially. Like I was like keeping track of like, oh, that was Dragon Age Inquisition, and that was Dark Souls 2. My niche for a while was being the director's cut guy. Like people would, and like samesies, I get it. Like fucking Nier Automata or Nier Replicant, the remake is out, and I'm like, I don't care. I already covered that game. I'm not gonna cover the whole same game twice. What the fuck? But like I was late to a bunch of games because of the timing when I made my YouTube channel. So it'd be like, okay, here let's be the guy who I was the guy who played Wasteland 2 director's cut, Divinity Original Sin director's cut, and Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. Because like Dark Souls 2 was popular, but like only the most like niche Dark Souls channels were going to cover the fucking re-release of the same game they already covered. But I was like, I'll do that shit, and like those were like my most popular videos on my whole channel, basically, were these various director's cuts and re-release, like game name, subtitle, and that's like that was my big ins for a while. Was like, I mean, if it's coming out, there's an audience for it, and people want to look at that thing. But obviously, a lot of content creators, like the most popular ones, they're already niche for those people to even cover the first time around, the CRPG ones, but covering the same CRPG twice, that's like you're already at least going down to like Christopher Odd levels. Like you're running out of people that are competition. And that was like my big in for a while, and it's like it was on accident. Like it was just an accident that I observed retroactively, essentially. But yeah, I'm looking at my graph now, and like ever since like let's say 2016, 2017 or whatever, which is actually when I went full time, it's pretty much horizontal. I'm obviously growing and gaining new audience members, but it's keeping pace with the decay that every channel has naturally, because you're losing people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. Well, I think it's about time to wrap this up. Anyone have any final thoughts on that?
I'll just say that I have noticed that since 2017, all of my suggested clicks have disappeared. So they used to be like, I think a fair 20 to 30% of my views were from suggested videos. And
the algorithm just dropped you?
They dropped it, yeah. completely since 2017, and I think
Yeah,
it's probably
it's scary.
overall. It probably is not targeted or anything. It's just like that's how YouTube now does. I don't know if you have the same thing on your analytics, but that's difficult to reach that page. I never look in there because it's scary. But basically playlists are everything for me, and I don't know. YouTube has been pushing a lot of very small videos to my front page, and I'm like, never see this channel again in my entire life. I don't want videos with 30 seconds. And I
Like
don't know if they
what,
want to do-
shorts.
It's not just shorts, it's even old videos like meme videos. I don't know what YouTube wants to become, honestly.
I don't think they know either.
That's my only hope, is that they don't know. Oh boy. But we'll see. Maybe somebody's watching this podcast 3 years in the future and they know.
I mean, yes, someone. One guy. Hello, Tyler.
Hi. It's gotta be Tyler, right?
Is it, I just love the idea of being right once and like ruining someone. It's got to pick a really boring name. I'm sorry, Tyler. I didn't mean to. Got to pick like really common names, hoping that you'll strike gold one day. Well, thanks for watching. Like always, guys, send your questions to dialogchoicespodcast@gmail.com. That's spelled the same way as the podcast is, so don't misspell dialogue, or don't spell it correctly, however you see it. Thanks for watching, like always, guys, and I'll see you next time. We don't see you. You're not real. No eyes. Audio
Goodbye.
podcast.
He'll see you. Bye.